All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to StealthyHunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
You're listening to the Northern Hunter Podcast, home of all things hunting, fishing, and outdoors in Alaska.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is James Payne.
I'm Dalton Gray.
I'm Ryan Humphreys.
And we're sitting down today with Marshall Teague. Thank you very much for cutting time out of your weekend to come hang out and talk Africa with us.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you and I were the two other people from Fairbanks to go over to South Africa with our good buddy Safari Sean, as he's known.
Safari
Sean.
Conquering the Great Wild.
Yeah. So he organized a trip, and you and I jumped on board. My wife went with us as well. Well, it's his wife. So, and yeah, I'm excited to bring some details from that trip. It was
very interesting.
It was a roller coaster.
Yes.
I'll say that. A lot of ups and downs.
Yeah. And this is both of your guys' first international hunting trip.
Yes.
Hunting trip, yes. Yeah. You've done some international travel before, right?
I've
Marshall?
done lots of international travel, but this
Right.
was my first international hunting trip.
Yeah. And just for a little bit of background, you're pretty heavily into hunting here in Alaska as well. You've lived here for a while. You do the bears, the moose, and all that.
Yep.
So.
Gotten doll sheep, goats, you know, and big hunter in Texas and Arizona, Wyoming. I've hunted a lot of places.
Yeah.
And Africa was finally presented to me in a so it was so good I had to take it.
Yeah. No, that is one good thing, is that there's really good opportunities for blue collar folks if you look hard enough and you know the right people.
Yeah.
So, and that's a really cool thing, because especially like I'd never even considered going to Africa before.
Right.
Because you look at all these hunts and all these big names that go over there and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and you're thinking, oh man, that's $25,000 minimum just to get in,
Well, sometimes for one animal.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, and to that, there are animals over there that are in that league, and there's no getting away from it. You're not going to go over there and hunt an elephant for anything less than $25,000, I'd bet.
It's it's over $100,000 for a cheap one.
It.
Yeah, for a cheap one.
But if you want to go over and just experience it, though, I mean, there's we were hunting Impala and blessed buck, and you got yourself kudu.
A kudu.
Kudu.
Very nice.
Beautiful animals. I love those.
That's
things.
one of my favorite African plains game animals is the kudu. The kudu and the gemsbuck are probably my two top favorites.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even on my list. I was going over there with the main, out of the package that we were given to hunt a water buck. And then when a kudu presented itself in front of me, a trophy one, I was just like, yep. I didn't even think twice about it.
There's no decision making.
Yeah, there's such good looking animals. I mean, they're just amazing. We saw a bunch of them while we were over there, but highs and lows, definitely. And that's a lot to discuss.
Part of the adventure, the travel.
But before we get into that, though, you found a very interesting, funny, and I don't know how else to describe it. Shocking story.
Was the headline that really caught my attention on this one.
I read this last week too.
This is on Outdoor Life. Okay. And this is published on February 9th of this year, 2024. And just the title. Okay. We'll just drop this one right out there and you'll see why it caught my attention. Montana man charged for illegally cloning and breeding Marco Polo sheep from Central Asia.
I mean, that's almost enough right there. You almost don't have to say anything else.
That's it, folks.
And that's pretty much what happened. There's a guy in Montana that through a long series of events in 2013, yes, January of 2013, these charges stem from a 9-year stint when the individual hired a third party to store tissues from a Marco Polo sheep, an Argali subspecies that he acquired from an illegally imported hunter-harvested carcass from Kyrgyzstan. So most people in the sheep hunting community are pretty familiar with the world's prices.
Right.
And in North America, you can hunt desert bighorn, Rocky Mountain bighorn, Dall sheep, and stone sheep. And just to get the North American slam of sheep, just those 4, easily for any kind of a bighorn tag, especially Rocky Mountain, and a lot of the deserts are now up there as well. But those tags, those governor tags, are auctioning off for over $250,000.
Oh, yeah.
On a regular basis.
Yeah.
I think one of the ones that sold at the sheep show this year, earlier on this year, sold for $300,000 something dollars. And that was for a bighorn of some variant. I don't remember if it was Rocky or desert. Point being, sheep hunting, to be able to complete that slam is getting harder and harder. But there is a select, very small group of people who have killed all 4 North American, bighorns and thin horns, the stones and dalls being the thin horns. And they want to expand their worldwide sheep adventures. And so they go to Asia and Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, some places in Russia also have several species of wild sheep. And they have several different subspecies. The Marco Polo probably being the most notable of those species because it has one of the most impressive sets of horns on the planet as far as a sheep species goes for a wild animal. They get to be just monstrous. And the bodies on some of those monstrous rams look like a small caribou. They are huge animals. But that's not quite as expensive. Back in the beginning, it wasn't quite as expensive as it is now. And as demand has gone up, the expense of those Marco Polos for some of those trophy world-class rams has gotten to be right up there with any of the North American species.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then you include international travel and then importing that trophy back to the States. And so the industry demand for exotic sheep species has gone through the roof in the last decade. Really, in the last 5 years, it's seen its peak compared to the past, because there have been some people, I remember Jim Shockey on his Uncharted show. He went over to Russia and hunted, I think they call them snow sheep. I could be wrong on that, but it was some species that he hunted in Russia, and then he hunted a Marco Polo. And that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that on TV of an American hunter going into Asia out in the middle of nowhere and hunting these obscure, unknown animals. And he wasn't going and hunting with outfits sometimes. A lot of times he was just finding a group of locals that lived in the mountains in a village that had horses that knew where the sheep were, and he would hire them out as his guide to then go take him sheep hunting. Well, now there's a whole industry around it. There are guides, there's outfitters, there's booking agents in the States that'll facilitate all this stuff because there's a lot of logistical moving pieces. And so since that demand has gone up, this guy figured that he would clone one. He ended up getting, the outcome of this was he got, and this is
naturally,
this is just too good to make up. Like, if you heard this story playing pool at your local sports bar on a Friday night, you wouldn't believe it.
Right.
Like, it just sounds incredible.
I once knew this feller.
Yeah. Right. You won't believe this, but I know somebody that has, cloned a Marco Polo. So he, a Montana game farm owner, is in a world of trouble after federal investigators busted up his years-long multi-state wild sheep cloning, breeding, and trafficking ring.
So he is a farm owner then.
Well,
because I was curious. I'm like, what could his end goal possibly be?
It says game farm.
Right. So it has to be. So that's what I was wondering. I'm like, what's his end game if he's just some random guy? But if he owns a farm and he's got a high fence or something like that, then clearly he was trying to populate his high fence area or something.
He paid someone to use DNA from that tissue that he got from the illegally imported ram from Kyrgyzstan. He used that tissue to clone more sheep. That cloning attempt, which the individual forked over $4,200 for, provided him with 165 Marco Polo sheep embryos, one of which would later become the, in quotation marks, Montana Mountain King ram, whose semen the individual started harvesting in 2018. So this ram grew up, was a normal functioning animal, and he was able to continue to propagate this little stint that he had going on.
Wow.
With the reproductive ability of that ram. And it was working until he got caught.
It's kind of amazing, actually.
It's shocking.
I mean,
it really surprised me that he pulled it off.
It's more amazing that not only did he pull it off, but he puld it off for that long before he got caught.
9 years.
Yeah.
Well, I get the impression like what's it called? The investigation's been going on for a while.
It probably has.
Probably for several years, trying to get everybody involved and really crack down on it, and not just get the one guy.
They didn't just bust him,
right.
Well, so here's my thing, like kind of like with the whole like what's his end game, right? Like I mean, you do something this intricate, like what's your end game? So he has the property, he has the game ranch that he's gonna clone these things and populate this species of sheep on his game ranch.
I can't imagine.
How are you gonna advertise that?
Yeah,
like how you can't take trophy pictures. You can't advertise it. Like how would you even imagine pulling that off?
At some point, maybe, and I don't know. There's no details about any statements from him. I'm sure he's pretty tight-lipped because he's facing he's facing over $250,000 in fines and up to 10 years in jail for this. Now, with his plea deal, I'm sure that'll be lessened and community service and all things like that. And he'll have to donate to the Lacey Act Foundation and all the other things that he violated in this process. But I would think that his end goal, but usually when you hear stories like this, the motive is this mad scientist mentality. Well, if I can raise enough of them and then release them and have them wild and grow up another generation or two wild before they really catch on what's going on here,
then it's too late.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now you'd have Marco Polos in Montana, which would be wild. But on the side of health, though, wild sheep are very susceptible to disease. There are several different kinds of disease that can just run through a sheep population, and especially if they kill them all.
Come in contact with domestic sheep,
and that's the concern: is if those Marco Polos being raised on this ranch, contract some kind of a disease, or they already have it. It's just innately there with Marco Polos. And then they go out and interact with other wild sheep, bighorns, and they transmit that. Then that can kill the native species bighorn sheep,
right?
Which would be a huge problem.
Oh, for sure.
So another thing also with the biggest thing is just that there's no predicting what an invasive species will do.
Exactly.
I mean, you grew up in Fiji. You guys probably had several of those over there.
A few of them, yeah.
You guys have chickens? Like Hawaii does?
Not nearly as bad.
Everywhere,
no.
right?
No, right. Not like Hawaii.
Some of the iconic animals in Australia, New Zealand, they're invasive.
New Zealand is the best example of it.
It is, but Australia, dingo, is not native to Australia.
Yep.
The rabbits, they brought rabbits over. There were way too many rabbits, so they brought a coyote or something like a coyote over that interbred with some of the local jackals and came out with the dingo. Yeah. And now the dingo's everywhere in Australia.
When I was in Australia, they were
no kidding. Yeah.
When I was in Australia as a teenager, bow hunting, the ranch owner that we were hunting on his property, he just had a big farm that was leased out and that he let us hunt on. And it was just wild pigs and goats we were going to shoot. But he said, if you see a dingo and you shoot it, I will pay you to shoot dingoes. Like they hate them over there.
That's in South Africa where we were. Baboons and jackals were free. So it was, if you see a baboon, you see a jackal, knock them down, because they'll eat the livestock. They'll ransack stuff.
They eat all kinds of birds. Pests. Those baboons are just terrible.
Oh, and they're destructive as all get out.
Yeah.
It's
So and I'm reading another article, wideopenspaces.com about the same.
Oh, really?
Same
okay.
Thing. Yeah. There's a little bit more information here about transferring and selling the semen. Transferring it to Africa and actually
to where?
To America. To Texas.
Texas.
Okay.
Unnamed person to an unnamed person in Texas. someone else brought 26 illegal sheep to Shoebar, which is the guy's name, to his range to be inseminated, paying him $600 before taking 16 of the sheep back to Minnesota. And basically, the sheep were transported under falsified veterinary certificates from state livestock boards.
Oh, so he wasn't
which listed them as Dall sheep, domestic sheep, and bighorn sheep.
So he wasn't just trying to get Marco Polo in Montana. He
was making money by selling these opportunities.
Okay. And then whoever wanted them wherever they wanted them was where they were going to go.
Right.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, there's a whole myriad of reasons you shouldn't do that. And, you got to give the guy the credit of the fact this is really a brilliant thing to do.
Right.
Because honestly, all a hunter would have to bring back is a piece of hide, right? You just need enough DNA. You don't have to have an entire carcass.
Right.
You know, and I'm curious, like, what the difference is because, you know, down there in Texas, there's all kinds of exotic animal ranches.
Yeah.
You know, you can go hunt Nyala.
They have
Texas.
gemsbuck.
You can hunt gemsbuck. You can hunt ostrich.
Well, they even have ibex. They have that free roaming ibex one in West Texas now that was invasive, and then it's striving now, and they've included into the conservation program.
Just out of hand, and so hey, why not make money off of hunting?
Right. Yeah. But you know, you have all these ranches, so I'm curious if maybe it was just the way he went about this.
Yeah.
Like if he had just said, "Hey, I want to have this exotic species on my land. It's high fence. They'll never get out in the wild." Like,
well, there's somebody
if
I know
to that.
with an exotic game ranch. I want to say it's in Oklahoma somewhere.
Okay.
And he has all kinds of African animals on that ranch and a bunch of celebrities.
Tiger King, is it?
No. No. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's a very well-known exotic game ranch, but it's all kinds of manner of exotic animals from all around the world. Mountain animals that there's not even mountains there.
Yeah.
But it's high fence, so it's completely contained.
Right.
Now it's on hundreds of thousands of acres, so it's not like you're hunting in a whitetail cornfield with high fence,
right?
Where they're just trapped in there and they eat alfalfa for 5 years and then you shoot a 200-inch whitetail. It's hundreds of thousands of acres. It's like an African game preserve, but you can go there and shoot a Dall sheep, or you can go there and shoot an oryx on the same lot of land.
Yeah.
So he's got all these species running around. So I'm sure he was selling to people like that, that have some of these exotic ranches that just wanted, hey, people want to shoot a Marco Polo just to complete their slam. Why not just shoot it in the States?
Right.
Well, and the biggest thing too is though, like, so you and I both know a guy that wanted to start somewhat of an exotic farm locally.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he was going to do it with pigs.
Russian
boars, which would be cool.
They'd probably
really
survive
cool.
up here.
Yeah,
they would survive.
He did the research, and he has the land. I think building the fence, all that kind of stuff. He got a bunch of money from a sale of a company that he used to work for, and stocks and all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, hey, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Right.
So he bought the pigs. He paid for all the veterinary work. And then at the last moment, the state
overturned it
and said, no, you can't do it.
Really?
And he didn't give him the permits.
Yeah.
So he had to just take a loss and I think just have them all killed.
Yeah.
Wow.
He ended up just having to kill them all.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So he's got Russian bacon.
I don't think he could even get I don't think he even really got the meat from it though. I think it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think he hasn't had that. They're not in the state.
Oh,
I don't believe.
Oh, so they were imported, but not up to here yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like at the last minute, like the paperwork didn't go through and they said, no, you can't do it yet. He goes, and he could try to do it again.
Yeah.
But, he's got $5,000 in each one of those pigs.
Right.
Easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so I don't know if he's going to. I was really hoping he was going to be successful.
They let it get that far in the
I was really hoping that would go through.
That was several years ago.
Yeah.
Dad knows him better. I should ask him if he's been trying anything else with that.
Right.
I haven't heard any mention of it.
I could see how that would go south if they did get out.
Yeah.
But then we would just have a 24/7 hog season like a lot of other places in the country. So, is it that bad of it? I don't know. I mean,
I don't think it's that bad of a deal.
I was going to say.
It would be a distracting food for the grizzly bears not to kill all the moose.
Right.
They'd start killing pigs.
But it also might hurt the black bear population more.
It could.
Yeah.
It could.
That's true.
And not to mention, talk about messing up our
bear
fauna.
baits. Could you imagine having a bear bait run over by pigs?
That'd almost be scarier than bears, dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, especially Russian boar. Yeah,
Dude, those things are huge.
Yeah.
Well, the big adult males will be as long as this table is.
Yeah.
They're huge.
They can be what, 600 pounds easy, right?
Several hundred anyway. Yeah, 300 to 400, I think. They're monstrous pigs. Yeah. They're huge.
Imagine the black bear population getting pushed around by a bunch of pigs. Man, that's crazy.
That'd be quite the deal to be sitting in the tree stand. What in the world is that? Running black bears off your bait. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, Russian boars, male Russian boars up to 450.
Wow.
On average, and females.
I want to say they have some of those in Michigan. I think you can.
They have. There's places in the States.
Yeah, I think they have those in northern Michigan, if I remember right. Yeah. But
anyway, that would have been a lot of fun. But
it would have been. Yeah.
Ifs and buts.
maybe someday. Maybe enough of us, push for that paperwork to go through.
Yeah.
Start a petition.
Legally.
Start putting in your petition to the board of game. Allow Russian boars.
I mean, hey, all we got to do is get a piece of genetic material.
Go visit this guy, see if he'll give you his connection for the cloning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy, man. That's insane.
I just thought that was worth talking about. I figured that was entertaining enough.
Yep. Man, that's nuts. Well, we're about 20 minutes in, so let's take a break real quick. Hammer Bullets produces what we at the Northern Hunter consider to be the most premium and best working monolithic bullets on the market today. These bullets are easy to load, extremely accurate, and best of all, they're always in stock and ready to ship. The guys at Hammer designed them so that after penetrating the hide of an animal, it sheds its petals, initiating a massive energy dump while retaining the rear shank for maximum penetration. These bullets are built with 100% focus on how they perform on game, and their proprietary designs produce great BCs with specialized pressure grooves for amazing inherent accuracy and speed. They have a minimum expansion velocity of 1,800 feet per second, which allows for long-range shots, but with no maximum velocity, making them perfect for every cartridge from your granddaddy's old 30-30 to the high-velocity round like the Weatherby 30-378 without having to worry about your bullet failing. To view their expansive selection and find the perfect match for your hunting needs, go to hammerbullets.com and use discount code TheNorthernHunter to drop the hammer on your next adventure. All right, so the beginning of this Africa trip. So for one, we started planning this
4 or 5 months out.
Yeah, I mean, easily. I think the first time Shauna brought it up to me was almost, longer than that. I think it was last winter sometime.
Yeah.
Trying to gauge interest, see who was wanting to go. And I pretty much told him yes right away. And so me and my wife both, yep, we want to go. This is our chance. We don't have kids yet, but so kind of before life really starts rolling and we have a lot of responsibilities here at home, like let's go do one of these big adventures. It might be 18 years before the next one, which after going, I would go every year if I could, man. It was amazing. But
it was, yes, it was.
So, we started putting money into the trip and everything and got to a point where it's just, all right, now it's paid for. We're just looking forward to it. And we're just super happy looking forward to this trip. Well, Alaska Airlines had other ideas. So
like the day before.
So
well, luckily I think it was 2 days before.
It was 2 days before. Okay. So we were supposed to leave out, 3 technically. Because we were supposed to leave out Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
We got a notification Thursday afternoon that our flight had been canceled between Fairbanks and Seattle.
Oh boy.
Now, for anybody who's been paying attention to aircraft news lately knows that Alaska Airlines been having a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
A door flew off of a plane and they had, I think somebody tried to hijack a plane at one point and all this other stuff. And so they've been having some staffing issues. They've been having, they had a large majority of their fleet that was the same model that had the door issue.
Yeah. So they had to ground all of them.
Yep. Had to be grounded, had to go through a very deep inspection process. And so what happened is, I guess they just didn't have enough planes to make all of the flights that they had planned on. And so ours got cut.
Yep.
And so, we've it's still a blue collar price point trip over there, but even then it's expensive for blue collar pricing, right? So we have a lot of money invested in this trip and we're looking forward to it for a year now. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I get this text message on my phone. We're sorry for the inconvenience, but your flight on Saturday has been canceled and there's no option to rebook. So, and I'm at work. I'm in the middle of my day.
Yeah.
And so I start kind of freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
I
panic mode.
And the good thing is I took a snapshot of that text and I sent it to the group chat, which was all of us going to Africa had a group chat going on. I'm like,
I was like, no.
I was like, Houston, we have a problem. Because
Yeah.
Marshall was on the same flight as me.
Yeah.
We were all supposed to leave the same time. And so we go through this whole thing. That whole day was such a roller coaster because within 30 minutes, my wife and I had found another flight through Delta that could get us to Seattle, but we had to leave that night.
Good old Delta.
So we found out, and I had packed some things like my clothes and whatnot and figured out, okay, this is what I want to bring because they have a pretty good system over there for laundry and stuff. So, I mean, you don't have to bring a ton of stuff, but
one shirt, one pair of shorts.
Right.
It's going to be hot.
Yeah, exactly. But so we were mostly packed, but just there were some finer detail things. But so I found out at like 3 p.m. that I was leaving at 1 a.m. that same day or the next morning.
I remember you called me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's why I missed 2 episodes. We were supposed to record
Friday. That night.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was that
night. And you called me that afternoon. Like, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah.
So we got to rethink this.
Yeah.
Because I got to leave at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Like in 12 hours.
And luckily, my wife has a friend in town and she was here to house sit for us.
Yeah.
And so luckily that was
good.
a really easy process. I mean, she saved our butts on that one, because she was able to just watch the pets and take care of the house and everything. And so we just kind of had to get her set up.
You classify your dogs as pets?
Livestock, maybe.
Yeah, those are like livestock size. Those dogs are huge, man.
What kind of dogs do you have, James?
They're he's a half Great Dane, half Pyrenees. So a Pyrenees.
He can put his nose up to my belly button just standing there.
Oh yeah.
How much does he weigh?
130, I think.
Yeah, it's
roughly
a big
130.
big old dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is we're thinking about getting my daughter a dog puppy right now,
right,
for her birthday
or
for family.
Don't get her one of those.
Don't get her one of those.
Cane Corso.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Which those are big dogs
very
too,
good,
but
very good dogs.
They're good dogs.
I actually back in the day I really wanted one of those, but they were like $3,000 a pup or something like that.
I've got a line on one if you on 11
Is somebody cloning them?
No. Somebody I know had a litter of 11 of them.
Oh, I heard about that.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Okay.
My wife was looking at those too.
Yeah, friends
I
and
said
family.
No, for
Friends
me,
and family get a real good price. I don't know about you, but
so I grew up with German Shepherds or German Shepherd mixes. So my first dog was a German Shepherd Border Collie mix.
Mm-hmm.
Smartest dog I've ever had in my life. She was just like
I didn't know they mixed those.
Oh yeah, we literally. So we had 5 acres growing up, and I just had to walk her around the border of the property, for like 4 or 5 days. And every time she'd try to leave the property, I would just pull her back on the leash. If she tried to go in the property, yep, go for it. And just doing that, she figured out what the borders were, and we never had to worry about her running off.
Dude, that is a neat looking dog.
Yeah, she was awesome.
I just looked up pictures of him.
Yeah,
that is a cool looking dog.
And so my next one will probably be a German Shepherd, or some variant there. But I've also really been looking at those Karelian bear dogs.
Yeah.
I like those things; they're pretty neat. And there's a couple breeders in the state that seem to be pretty reputable. But
sorry,
you heard of speaking of,
I didn't mean to turn this into a dog conversation.
Since we're on the topic of Africa, to kind of transition back into that,
mm-hmm.
you ever seen a Rhodesian Ridgeback?
No,
the lion dogs.
Yeah.
Ooh,
those are
that sounds
neat.
interesting.
Bred for lion hunting.
Yeah. The funny thing is though is so we have that 130-pound horse living in our house.
Yeah.
He gets bossed around by the 5-pound cat. So we have a little black cat, and he's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old. Yeah, he'd be 4 years old.
What's his
now.
name? Lucky?
Salem. I didn't name him. I didn't name him, but black cat named Salem.
It doesn't matter what his name is. They don't answer to a name anyway.
Oh, he does.
Does he really?
Oh yeah, he's crazy, dude. He's like a dog.
Really?
He'll come when he's called. He'll hang out on the couch with me while I'm sitting like watching TV or something. If I get up to go get a drink in the kitchen, he'll literally come down with me, like go into the kitchen, like jump up on the counter, hang out with me.
Really?
Yeah, like he knows his name. He comes when he's called.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my parents came to visit this last summer, and he was hanging out upstairs. He's kind of shy sometimes. And they're like, where's this cat? Like, where do you still have your cat? I'm like, because I got him in Kansas and I brought him up here with me. And I was like, yeah, he's still around, And so I called for him, and sure enough, come downstairs, came up, hang out, like jumped right on my shoulder, and they're like, no way. You have a cat that comes when he's called? I'm like, wow. Yeah, he's great.
That's where the whole saying of it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
Because they don't answer.
No, this one does. I don't know. It's weird.
Huh. Anyway, okay, so.
But yeah, so she she was watching the house, watching the animals, and so that was a low stress situation there, except for the fact that we were supposed to have like 3 days to set her up to watch the place, and that got condensed into about 6 hours.
Yeah.
But we were able to get everything set up, everything good to go, got to the airport, got checked in. And this is where things got really, this is the point when I actually pretty sure I popped a blood vessel in my forehead, because it's 1 a.m. We're super stressed. Madeline, my wife, had been on the phone for probably combined 6 hours with the airlines because it caused a trickle down effect where once Alaska Airlines canceled their leg, then British Airways was like, oh, well, they're not going anymore, so we'll cancel the rest of the leg. So she had to
shut down your whole itinerary.
Yeah, so she had to start calling multiple people to figure, hey, we're taking a flight, we'll be down there, we're just changing our check-in point to Seattle. Man, it's like don't cancel the rest of the trip. So this whole trip, 2 days before it goes down, is about to get kiboshed, and it's just super stressful. Well, we get to the airport, we're both dog tired.
Yeah,
we get through security, everything's checked in. We got the Apple tags in our bags and everything like that.
Yeah, that's good.
And we had taken the tag that's normally in her purse and put it in one of the bags so we could track our luggage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we get on the plane, and we had to de-ice like twice, so it took like an hour.
Yeah.
And we're literally rolling down the tarmac, about to take off, and I'm asleep.
Yeah,
like it's 1:30, 2 in the morning. I'm asleep. And all of a sudden I hear, I'm like, what? Like what on earth is causing, and she's, I don't have my purse. And what had happened is we were both, when we got to the gate, we were sitting there for, 20 minutes or so waiting to board. Stood up, grabbed our big carry-ons because we're going overseas, right? So we both had big carry-ons. It's not just our little backpacks we use when we go to Michigan and whatnot. Grabbed up all of our stuff, and somehow her purse had just slipped in between the seats on that bench that we were sitting on, and neither of us noticed it. And she had her boarding pass and her passport outside of not her passport. She just had her boarding pass outside the purse, so she was able to get on the plane without it.
So she didn't have her passport.
She didn't. So we're on the plane, rolling down, taking off from Fairbanks to Seattle, and she doesn't have her driver's license. She doesn't have her passport. She doesn't have anything. And it's somewhere back in Fairbanks at the airport. And so now, not only did we just go through this whole ordeal with the canceled flights, now we're faced with the fact that
you're going to get to Seattle and nowhere else.
We're going to get to Seattle, and she's not going to be able to go anywhere if we can't get this purse to Seattle. She's not going to be able to leave security, because then she won't be able to get back in.
Right.
So if she is going to be able to get back to Alaska, we're going to have to just turn her around right then and there and send her back to Alaska.
Yeah.
And so we're flying to Seattle, not sure if this trip is going to happen. It's like,
oh man,
that level of stress. I mean, she was out of her mind, of course. I'm out of my mind. And it was just such a roller coaster. It was to the point we were almost like, this just isn't even worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Like this isn't.
And so while all that was going on, my wife, because I thought it was, this is not really happening. And so my wife got on and she goes, yes, it is canceled. Well, I didn't get to get on the Delta flight, but luckily there was a flight leaving Friday midday on Alaska Airlines. That they just backed me up a day. And so I got on that flight, and I didn't have to go through all the troubles that they did, because it was still, my first leg was Alaska. So it's just continued my other flights through. So I got lucky there.
Well, and how did you, I don't even know how you got that through, because I was calling Alaska Airlines, and I mean, the whole thing you're hearing, 7-hour wait, 9-hour wait, because so many people were calling because of all the canceled flights.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
I don't
magic.
Either. I don't know what she did. My wife jumped on it because I was working. And she goes, "You're squared away. You're squared away. You don't have to worry about it now. I got you on the flight out Friday. You'll just have to stay a day in Seattle."
Yeah.
And I was like,
wow.
Woo.
Yeah.
And so I let him know that, and then that's going to follow into what happened next.
Yeah. So he gets on the Alaska flight, and I think at one point Madeline had seen that flight was an option, and I just wasn't having it with Alaska Airlines. I was done. Yeah. I was like, because they did the same thing to us last year for Christmas. Yeah. We missed Christmas with the family because they'd canceled flights, and so I was like, nope, we're flying Delta. Just get us out of Fairbanks. Yeah. Whatever the fastest way is. Yeah. And so she managed to get a message out to her dad in Michigan about the purse missing before we left self-service in the airport. And of course, I don't know if we should say it wasn't in airplane mode when we were taking off, but
what are they going to do?
What are they going to do? So she gets a message out to her dad because we called the stewardess over, or air, whatever you call those people. Yeah. And she's like, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry. Like, the plane's rolling. Like, it's like maybe 45 minutes ago, we could have had somebody run it out to the plane, but like, they haven't found it yet. They called back to the front, to the gate. Nobody had found it yet. Well, so her dad jumps on it because of the time difference. He was up for some reason. Mm-hmm. And so he's calling, and basically it turned out they did find it. Somebody did find it. They turned it into lost and found. And so he was able to basically say, hey, that's my daughter's purse. This is my name. This is her name. And they verified it with the passports and all that. And so Marshall, thankfully, had gotten that flight the next day. And so by the time we landed in Seattle, between her dad coordinating everything with the lost and found, and then we hit you up that very next morning, they were able to put the purse in his name. And when he flew down the next day, he was able to pick it up from lost and found and take it down.
No kidding.
But so we're sitting there, and we had to go sit in sit in a hotel. We checked into a hotel. Yeah. And I'm just, the whole thing's riding on the fact that Alaska Airlines is not going to cancel this next flight that he's on. Right. I was like,
Marshall going to make it?
If he gets double whammied, none of us are going. Like, and so we're just trying to rest, trying to sleep, and just, it's so not sure if this trip's going to happen. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that have hunted either internationally or even just state to state, traveling, that have had nightmarish travel stories similar to this. Actually, if you have any, feel free to write into the show and tell your story. It might make me feel better and not so alone. But so he goes to the airport, picks up this pink, sparkly, shiny purse. And, just,
and I had to hide it under my shirt.
Army veteran,
right. I'm sure you slung that over your shoulder and paraded it through.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to Seattle, so it wouldn't be.
Blend right in. I'm one of you.
But so, and luckily all the hotels down there, they have like the tram services. So he hit me up as soon as he, had the purse. He's like, I'm on the plane. It's like, I landed in Seattle. I'm by this area. I jumped on the train, or on the little tram.
Yeah.
Headed over to the airport, and we meet up in the front. I was the happiest guy in the world, man. And it was like, when I met up with him and got that purse, verified the passports in it, verified everything's good to go, jumped back on the bus, got back to the hotel, and I'm sitting in the room with my wife and everything, and we're like, this is going to happen. Like, we're actually going. And just like that immediately. It was like, okay, now we can relax. And it was just out for like 12 hours. But
wow.
And, after that, I would say the trip went pretty good, ultimately.
Because you got all your bad luck out of the way at the beginning.
Yeah. The travel after that was interesting, but not like horrible, I would say.
Yeah, just little lessons learned for traveling international.
Yeah. Well, you learned the hard way that they don't open the gate until a certain time.
Yeah. So if you're going to travel international, don't get to the airport more than 4 hours before, because you're not going to even get to check in.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So British Airlines doesn't open, or Airways, I guess British Airways doesn't open their gates to check in until, what is it, 4 hours ahead of time?
And you have to leave the hotel at 11.
Yeah.
So I had nowhere else to go. I went to the airport thinking I was going to at least get and go sit at a bar and drink a couple beers or whatever. Nope, that didn't happen.
Yeah, so he shoots us the text message. He's like, don't even bother showing up till 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Saved our butts. So we were able to just hang out, and we went for a walk around Seattle and whatnot. It was cool, but yeah. And then
and so then you went direct from Seattle to
London.
Yep. And then
so,
London to Joburg.
Yeah. So London was
interesting.
interesting is the best way to put it. That whoever designed that airport, I don't know. It very interesting the way they have it designed.
Very hard to navigate.
It's vertical majority.
Really?
I mean, it's up and down and up and down and up and down. It's like it's not very wide, you know. And so, and they have.
That's because it's an island that they don't have a whole lot of square footage.
I was almost
on
wondering
an
about that if it was actually a limitation because you'll go up an escalator that's 4 stories.
Oh, really?
And you'll go up and then you have to go across and you take a lift back down to some other floor and then you go across somewhere else.
No kidding.
Right back
around,
up.
Yeah, right back up and then you go around some. It's so weird the way it's laid out. Like, if I could look at the actual blueprints, maybe might make sense. But I mean, just walking around there and you get so turned around so quickly. And, and all the signs are not the way we would word things in America. So, because there's, you got to pick up the baggage and there's like, what was the other thing? Through traffic or some basically connecting flights, is how we would say it, but it wasn't said that way. And so, and we were just trying to ask employees where we should go and they would send us over here. And then the ad employees, why are you over here?
Go over here. And then we went over there and we're like, well, we shouldn't be having you check our passports. We're not leaving the airport. They're like, well, no, you don't need to be here. And they're like, you need to go over here. And we're like, will somebody just take us, please? Which was good about Johannesburg. If you could find somebody that's willing to try to make a $5 bill or whatever, and he'll take you to your gate.
That is nice. And some of it, so we finally figured out our way through London, got through security, which security there really wasn't bad. I mean, it was a pretty quick process and they just pushed us right through. And then,
well, you guys weren't taking any guns.
No guns. So that was a very specific thing that we did, which I'm actually, given our experience at London Heathrow, I'm glad we didn't. Because it would have just added that much more of a nightmare to it.
I've heard London is a terrible place to have to take a gun through.
Well, and originally I thought, okay, well, if you don't want guns in your country and I'm just flying through on a connecting flight, you would probably just want to take the gun off of one plane, put it on the next plane. Nobody ever has to touch it. It never gets out of the box. Like it's just locked up and in and out of your country in 6 hours. But that's not the way it works. You have to take it off the plane, go get it checked by customs, have them put their stamp of approval on it before you can then send it out of their country. And given just how hectic it was trying to find our way around, I'm so glad I didn't bring a gun.
There's a reason our ancestors left that place.
Well, and I think the next time we go, we'll just go. There's a flight directly to Joburg from Atlanta, Georgia.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, we're gonna go that way next time.
Definitely. I mean, it's longer. It's like I think the Seattle to London was 9 hours, and then from London to Johannesburg was 11 hours. But from Atlanta straight over is 15 hours. But it's well worth it to me to not to have to go through all them customs again.
And on the way both there and back, really, I mean, the layovers added over half a day to the travel. Because they don't have flights that go to these places all the time. It's once or twice a day. And so you might show up at, I think on the way back, we showed up to London at 5 a.m. We didn't leave till like 3 p.m. or something like that. It was a pretty long layover. And so just not having that, and next time I'll definitely break the trip up too. Like if we do leave out of Atlanta, I'm going to fly to Atlanta like a day early. Get a hotel, spend the night, get some rest, get relaxed, and then jump on that 15-hour flight across, because then you're going also from a gun-friendly country to a gun-friendly country. So,
well, and that's the thing too, is instead of having to go Seattle to London, you're in a foreign place. Instead, just take that flight from Seattle to Atlanta, and you land in the States. You're still on home turf, and then you just go boom, international, and you're just straight to Africa. That to me would make it worthwhile, not having to go through London or Germany. There's a lot of flights that go through Germany. That's a pretty popular stopping point. But that's the customs in Europe for firearms is just ridiculous.
But I will say, British Airways, they did a good job as far as the flight goes. I mean, the first one especially. I mean, when we were flying from Seattle to London, I mean, the flight attendants were super polite. They were super nice. I mean, we got meals, which they're airplane meals, so
but not
the
at least they're still giving you food,
better than what you get just flying from Fairbanks to Seattle or something like that.
I flew Seattle to DC in January, and they didn't even serve a meal of food.
Really?
You had to buy it if you wanted it.
Yeah, these were free.
Yeah,
they were included.
Yeah, these were free, and we weren't even in first class or anything like that. We were just sitting coach.
That's how it always used to be when I was a kid flying internationally.
Yeah,
we'd have 10, 11-hour flights, and they served you a meal of food every time it was time to eat.
Yeah. We got dinner when we jumped on the plane, and then they turn the lights out, and you sleep for a while, and then they turn the lights back on. Oh, it's breakfast time. So
exactly. That's how it should be. You're paying that much money for a flight, right? They should just feed you,
right?
But
free drinks.
Yeah, that was nice too. But yeah, so it was really a good travel experience as far as being on the plane goes. And honestly, I'll say that even as big as I am, 6.5 feet tall.
I was going to ask about the legroom on that plane.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad either.
It wasn't Alaska Airlines.
The way that these planes are designed, it's like if your knees are straight in front of you, then it'll be tight. When you have long legs like I do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of room underneath the seat, so I could stretch my legs out in front of me and or kind of off to the side.
Yeah.
Even 2 of the flights, we ended up middle of middle. So, I mean, you've been on those international planes. You got 3 by each window and then 5 in the middle.
Yeah.
That
5 in the middle can suck.
Oh, man. It was so bad.
That can be a nightmare.
Yeah. And so we ended up middle of middle a couple of times, and it was a little tight on the elbow room for me. But, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I was still able to sleep a little bit. I was still able to, make it through comfortably.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just something about, you're stuck there for 9 or 11 hours, and you just kind of accept it. But
download some movies.
And they had TV screens.
Did they have individual screens for you?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't have like the big common screen at the end of each section.
No.
That was the first time I ever remember flying internationally as a very young kid. That was what Air New Zealand was doing. Was that they had every so many rows they would have a divider.
Yeah.
And then a huge TV in there, and they were playing like Lord of the Rings back when that was still big deal.
It's still a big deal in some circles, man.
But you were stuck. You were stuck watching whatever was on that TV.
Right.
You were on a Delta flight over international?
No, British Airways.
British Airways.
Yeah, so we were supposed to connect through Alaska Airlines from Fairbanks to Seattle because they're partners. They're part of the One World Alliance.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Whatever
Let's not start on that.
But so we ended up jumping a Delta flight 2 days early down to Seattle, and so we stayed in the hotel room and then caught the British Airways the next day. And then so once we got to London, we met up with the rest of our party, and then it got easy because
he knew how to navigate.
They knew how to navigate the airport. It wasn't just a couple of Americans.
Because Sean was already there with his wife.
He was already there. Steve was there at the same time. He showed up because he was able to change his. He had a little bit of a flight debacle on his own too, but he was able to get on the same flight as us, and so
his was self-inflicted though.
It was. He booked the wrong day. so, but luckily they had some extra seats, and he was able to move it and everything like that. And so it was great. And so that was our party. It was Marshall, myself, my wife, Sean and his wife, and then Steve. And it was a great crew of people to hang out with.
And Steve is local?
Steve he's British. Yeah.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah. So he's so he showed up with
a friend
them.
of Sean.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so we all flew to Joburg from there, which that flight was actually probably the easier one, I would think.
It was
just and so
double decker,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
I love those airplanes.
I've never seen one
those
that
are
big.
So nice.
And everybody thinks I'm weird, but I literally feel safer in a 206 than I do on like one of these big jets. And the physics just make sense to me, right? I have pushed a 206 into a hangar before. I know how light they are. I can push it into the hangar myself.
Yeah.
So you put a big old engine with a prop in front of it on that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if this is light.
This propeller pulls this little lightweight aircraft through the air.
You put a building with wings on it. I'm like, this thing weighs 1 million pounds. Like, how is this in the air right now?
Hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel.
Oh yeah, I mean, just insane. But it was smooth. I mean, it was a smooth flight, and everything worked great, and we didn't die, so that was that was good. No doors flew off the planes. It was a really good
wasn't
time.
a Boeing Max 9,
right? But Joburg was actually I really liked the Joburg airport.
Yeah,
the layout made sense. Everything just kind of flowed. We got through customs. there, which it was a little bit of a long line, but ultimately it was fine. There was a little bit of a confusing feature with your bags because we were flying out of Joburg to Port Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And so going from international to commercial, you have to recheck your bags in.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really told us that ahead of time, and nobody explained that at the airport either.
Right.
So luckily, somebody noticed their bag on the carousel.
Yeah.
And we figured out what we had to do and got everything checked in. Now you guys had a really quick turnaround in Joburg, if I remember right.
Yeah, we went back through what their TSA would be.
Yeah.
And went straight to the gate and loaded the plane.
Yeah. In and out.
JetLink is awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's their flight, if I can remember. It's called JetLink, right?
Is it JetLink or Airlink?
Airlink.
Airlink. Okay.
Airlink.
Yeah.
All their planes look brand new. Their legroom in their planes is just crazy.
Yeah,
really?
It was.
Really?
It's like built for 7-foot tall people.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I do remember that. It was was nice.
Was it like a twin turbo 2-engine plane, or was it an actual jet?
I think it was a twin, wasn't it? Twin turbo.
Yeah.
So like those little prop jobs that they run from Fairbanks to Anchorage.
Yeah, 2 and 2.
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah.
2 seats on each side,
Mm-hmm.
and they fed you there too.
Yep.
Really?
Hour and 45-minute flight down to Port Elizabeth, and they fed you.
Yep, and we got lunch.
No kidding.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It is very nice. I was very surprised.
Ask if you could fly on that back to London.
I had the opposite experience in Europe.
Oh, really?
Air France. No, it wasn't Air France. It was an Air France Alliance, KVM Airlines or something like that. But you could feel the bars through the seat. Less legroom than any other plane just about I've ever been in.
Wow.
Same size plane, but it was not good.
Yeah. Well, and my wife and I had a slightly different experience because we were on a later flight for some reason out of Joburg. So we ended up hanging out there for like 6 hours because they had a pretty immediate turnaround, but I think we didn't leave until like 1 or 2 p.m.
Oh.
So we got a little bit more of an experience at Joburg, which it was a really cool
Was
airport.
everything in the Joburg airport bilingual then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you're starting to see that language barrier show up.
Yeah. So we were able to find our way around fine. And like he said, there was always somebody there willing to show you around for a tip. Now,
most folks spoke English?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they all spoke English. I think typically, your average person in South America speaks at least 3 or 4 languages.
Africa.
Or South Africa, sorry. It's early still.
It's like America, but South.
South Africa, sorry. I think typically they all speak 3 or 4 languages over there because of all the different regional areas and stuff like that.
All the diversity.
And so it's very interesting actually because like our PHs and whatnot, depending on who they were talking to, they'd speak 3 or 4 different languages, And so it was really cool
to see. It's a big
to see.
cultural hub.
Yeah. But so we it's funny, a lot of those people over there in the airports, it's very nice when you want the service. They'll show you to your gate. They'll show you to where you're supposed to check in and everything, and it's great.
Yeah.
Man, are they pushy sometimes? I'd have people coming up trying to grab my bags. Hey, let me help. I'm like, no, I got it. Thank you. Like, and it was funny. I gotta give a shout out to their work ethic. There were guys outside every restaurant in the airport. Mm-hmm. And whenever you walk by, they're like, oh, table for 2. Like coming up to you like, oh, you hungry? And it's like, good sales, good salesmen, and so
why not?
Yeah, why not? You get more tables that way, probably, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I think I am hungry.
Right, exactly. So, but no, we stopped in somewhere. We got some coffee and a little bit of food, and just kind of perused around the shops and everything like that. And it was a really, really interesting, really cool place.
That's neat.
It was absolutely gorgeous outside. That was one thing that really struck me about over there was it was so green.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting really. Just desert and, all this different stuff.
It's not like you're in the Sahara.
And that's, now that you brought that up. Yeah. So when we were flying over and I was looking down, from Johannesburg to Port Elizabeth, it looked like we were flying over Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
It was all farmland, nice green, different colors, the water.
Yeah.
How they water, I don't
all
know.
The irrigation.
And stuff. It was, it from above, it looked just like Kansas.
Like how you get that patchwork quilt style farmland.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting either, but it wasn't that.
Right.
I don't know. Watched too much TV, I guess, thinking of
expecting to look down and just see desert and sand dunes and lions running around.
And I don't know, just too much Discovery Channel, I guess. But but it was so green. The grass was green, the trees were lush, there were bushes and flowers and just all. I mean, it was almost tropical, and it was totally not what I was expecting. It was really, really neat.
Yeah.
And also during our travel, I figured out the cure for jet lag.
Exercise.
Just don't sleep. If you completely throw your sleep schedule off for 3 days straight while you're traveling, to where you just don't have a schedule when you show up, then you don't have jet lag. Yeah, you just go to sleep when you go to sleep, and you wake up.
When you get there, you go to sleep, and you just set your alarm for whenever the day starts.
Yep.
The next day starts. You go to sleep at 12 noon. Wake up at 6 a.m. 16 hours later, you're good to
go. Now, since you guys got there a little bit earlier than we did to Port Elizabeth, and I gotta say the welcome when Madeline and I showed up to Port Elizabeth was amazing. I mean, it was really like once you set foot off that last plane and you're there, and and Defin was there and his brother Edwin was there to pick us up. And
these are the PHs.
Well, Edwin's not a PH, but Defin runs the Winterberg Safaris, which is the one we were out there with. And so he showed up, and they had 2 trucks, and it was just awesome. It was like all of a sudden this relief, all the stress from the canceled flights,
we made
the
it.
Lost purse, and finding your way through international airports and all this stuff. Suddenly, it's like, we're here.
Sigh of relief.
Yeah, but so we were pretty much in and out of Port Elizabeth pretty quick. But you guys had pretty much a whole day there.
Yeah, we were waiting on y'all, so we went to a gun shop. They took us, and kind of not even near as big as what you would walk into the States. But I was actually surprised to see it. But we went in there, and they had all different kinds. Anything that you wanted to buy, and
probably had suppressors too.
Actually, they did.
Yeah,
you can buy suppressors pretty much over the counter for $200.
Yeah. Call them moderators.
I have complained about that many a time.
Oh yeah,
there's legislation. There's Texas. There's a built thing in Texas where they're actually fighting it right now.
Well,
get it to the ATF can't regulate.
It's about time,
or at least not the way it is.
Well, it's just if you look at anywhere else in the even over there in the UK.
Yeah.
Like as strict as they are about your firearms licenses and all this other stuff, and making sure you have all your paperwork in order, and it's the every 5 years or so often you've got to renew it and get inspections and all this other stuff. It's like if you don't get a moderator, they're like, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah,
like why wouldn't you want a moderator? Like it just makes it more pleasant for everybody. It makes it safer for you.
Yeah,
everybody else isn't hearing this muzzle brake blast off in the middle. Right. And it's like same thing in South Africa. They were, it's like every single rifle had a suppressor on it.
It did. Yep.
And it was so nice. Yeah. And that's one thing I came away from with this trip is I'm getting one. I need one.
Yeah, I'm definitely buying one myself.
I've never used one before. And I've always looked at them and been like, I don't want to add an extra, 7 to 10 inches on the end of my barrel. Like, not doing that. But coming back from that trip, I mean, it made a world of difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we met up with the PH and his brother there, and then they took us back to Fort Beaufort. That was the place we went to. So we were out on that side. For anybody listening, that's the area we were hunting in. And dude, just the scenery. Man, it's beautiful over there. It's like, have you ever spent time in like the high deserts of America? Like West Texas, Nevada, like
not quite those there, areas. But southeastern California, out in the desert down there.
Yeah. It's very similar to that. I mean, it's just wide open.
Yeah.
There's just sparse trees and brush and everything like that. Everything has thorns on it down there.
Yeah.
And the wildlife, dude. I mean, just the sheer amount of wildlife we saw. I mean,
if you had blindfolded me and put me out there in that ranch and then took the blindfold off, I would swear I was in West Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. They even have, I forgot the name of their mesquite tree. It's a mesquite style tree. I want to say it starts with an A or a C or something like that, but it's just a bigger mesquite tree. The thorns are like double sized, but it looks just like Texas. It's crazy.
Really?
It's
interesting.
Unreal. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, you're going through, the road system there. I mean, they drive on the left side of the road.
Yeah.
So that part was weird to me.
Naturally.
The first time I've ever been anywhere, they drive on the left side of the road. I've gone through Canada, but that's as far out of the U.S. as I've ever gone before, just driving between Alaska and the lower 48. And so being on the left side of the road for the first time, I'm going to be 34 this month, so 34 years of driving on the right side of the road. Suddenly we're on the left side and in the hills there, because it's all hilly terrain there between Port Elizabeth and Fort Beaufort.
Yeah.
And it's like you're going around these big mountains and cutting through these rock, outcroppings and everything, and you're just going around. I mean, there's a couple of like wide open plains areas too, but like, man, you start coming around that corner, and it just like the road system in Alaska, it's only one lane going each way, passing lanes every so often, and you start seeing that like a semi truck come around the corner at you.
Yeah.
And as an American, you see they're in the right lane, and you're like, oh no, like like he took the turn wide, like you got to like,
right.
Then, oh wait, like okay, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then turning on intersections too. That was the other weird part.
That makes sense.
Crossing traffic the wrong direction.
Yeah.
It felt so off. It took me days to get used to it because
I just didn't even look.
Yeah, right. But it was really interesting. We took a drive through a couple of towns there and everything like that, and just to see like the differences in how people live in different parts of the world and stuff like that. I mean, the way that the towns are laid out in the cities and the different areas and whatnot. And, like Port Elizabeth is really a beautiful place. I mean, you're right on the beach. They got some big buildings. They got all this nice, and it's cool because you can tell the history of the area too. Because there's a couple of buildings that don't look like they're in use anymore, but you can tell that they were a big deal back in the day, like maybe old church buildings and stuff like that, and just an older style of architecture. And it was really, really an interesting thing. But yeah, we had a great welcome there. We had a great trip all the way back up. We showed up to the lodge, and the lodge was just stunning. Is the best way to put it. I mean, they had the rooms were beautiful and nice. They were. You had your own private bathroom. You had there was a swimming pool. They had taxidermy everywhere. I mean, you're sitting there around the dinner table. You're looking at kudu and waterbuck and bushbuck and
diker and all.
Yeah,
they had diker too.
Oh yeah, all over that ranch.
Really?
Yeah, we saw a bunch of them.
I think they had like 4 or 5 different kinds.
Yeah. Because they had the commons, and then I don't remember what all the other ones were, but and then reedbuck. We saw a bunch of reedbuck. Those things are tiny, dude.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, the dikers are the size of a small dog.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
they're tiny.
Yeah, they're like chihuahuas. Yeah, they're bigger than chihuahuas.
Yeah, but they're bigger than that.
They're small.
Yeah,
and the reedbucks, little tiny deers, and they got these big old ears on them. Like their ears are bigger than the little spikes on top of their head. And like they bounce like rabbits. I think Madeline has a video of one of them we saw, and it was just staring at us, and we were she took a video of it, and it just starts bounding away, and like I would swear it was a rabbit if I didn't know any better. If I only saw it just bouncing around.
Big jackrabbit with little horns.
Yeah. But so we finally got to the lodge and settled in. I think we had dinner that night. They kind of laid out how everything was going to go, what time we're waking up and everything like that. And man, it was just so peaceful. They had a bonfire going, and the stars are out, and it's super warm. I think it was like -25 when we left Fairbanks. We show up down there, it's like, I don't know. It was cool for there, but it was like 75 degrees or something like that.
It felt awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so nice.
I'll bet.
You just got like a little. It was weird because I still put like a little hoodie on.
Yeah.
Just because there was a little breeze and everything, and it's weird.
Yeah.
How it's not cold for me, but it's cold for there, so it almost feels kind of cold. I don't know if it's the humidity or the wind or whatever it was, but it was just a little bit chilly. But so you're sitting around the fire, and there's no snow. You're just got your sandals on and everything, and it was just such a relief.
You weren't wearing flip flops?
I had my Crocs.
Oh.
Yep. Gotta rock the Crocs. Man.
Okay.
If you ain't crocking,
Right.
Yeah, because what I thought was
that's
weird,
acceptable.
You ain't crocking, you ain't rocking.
Yeah, I never even thought about it, but here it is, winter on our side of the world, and going over there, it's their summer, totally opposite of us.
Yeah.
And, you're thinking, and then you're like, their June, July, August, or whatever is their winter time. It just seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
Just like their opposite
Completely
side of the road
flipped.
type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's legitimately flipped like almost exactly 6 months.
Yep.
It's crazy. And same thing, I never even thought about that.
Yep.
But I brought it up, I mentioned it. I'm like, man, it's really warm down here. And the guy, Johnny, he runs the lodge down there, and he's like, oh yeah, you guys are Northern Hemisphere, we're Southern Hemisphere. And I was like, oh, well, when you put it that way, yeah, it makes perfect sense. But I just hadn't thought about it that simply before. You know? Like, but
You're
so
not
then
in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so then it was off to the races, you know, and it was great. We had we kind of experienced so much different weather while we were there, which was great. It never really rained on us, I don't think.
A little sprinkle one day.
Yeah, there was the one day. That's right in the morning time. Yeah, we had a little bit of a sprinkle, but it was the first 3 days were it was such a nice transition. You know? And like you said, it's almost like we used up all of our bad luck at the beginning of the trip. It was like, because he was even sending us picture. I think Devin sent us a picture in the group chat of the thermostat in his truck, saying it was like 50 something Celsius over there,
which was 131 degrees.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting there thinking negative 25 to 130. I was like, oh man. But it was nice. It was like in the 70s the first 3 days, like 70s and 80s, a little bit hot, but like nothing terrible.
So then here's a question for both you guys. How did it feel being in the rain and the rain wasn't cold?
Oh,
it felt good.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
Isn't that nice?
It made me remember why I liked rainy days in Kansas.
Yeah. Even had a thunderstorm going off in the distance, lightning and the thunder, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is nice.
Yeah.
It cools everything off.
Yeah.
I experienced that in the Smoky Mountains a couple of years ago. It blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that's, you know, in Kansas where I grew up.
I didn't like it because it was 90 degrees, and I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska. Okay. What you do in 90 degrees in Fairbanks, Alaska is you sit in a lawn chair.
Right.
And you wait for it to cool down.
Underneath your blue tarp with a thermocell
Exactly. Right. And there it's 90 degrees and we're not in the sun. Right. It's cloudy and it's 90 degrees and we're hiking and I have sweat pouring off me. And it starts raining and I'm thinking, good, I'm going to cool down. But no, I don't cool down.
No.
Because the water is the same temperature as the air.
Yeah. So I like it when it rains when it's hot out, but I don't like after the rain. Because then once the clouds part and it just starts to
muggy.
No. I can't do humidity anymore. After living up here in Alaska for so long, I just can't do it.
There's something nice about it. I still enjoy it.
The way I describe the way it makes me feel is it's like it's 100 degrees outside and you're wrapped in a wool blanket.
Yeah.
That's how it makes me feel. I don't like it at all.
It's like a sauna all the time.
I don't want to be in a sauna all the time. No. That's why I live in Alaska. But the other thing, the bugs over there, not bad at all.
It's because the heat.
We even asked the guy. I was like, oh, do you guys have mosquitoes down here? You know, he's like, oh yeah, we get mosquitoes, and I didn't see a one the whole time we were down there.
Wait, you weren't with us when we had the flat, though, were you?
No.
We were coming back one night. We were late, and I haven't been bothered by a bug yet.
Yeah,
and we had a flat, and it was dark, and so everybody takes out their cell phones and turns their flashlights on. Man, I don't know where all these things came from, but thousands, and you're just like, oh, let me turn it back off. Nope, but I can't see what's behind me. Oh, I'll turn it back on, you know?
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that's when I noticed just how many bugs they had there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's almost like, and you might be right about the heat, you know, it might be they're just nocturnal bugs, you know, because I mean, they don't want to be out there any more than we do.
That's the same way it was where I grew up. Is during the day, it wasn't usually all that bad, but at night, you had little bug lights out on your front porch, and they would just flock into that and get zapped by it.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's just like the heat here. Yeah. When it's 90 degrees, we don't see mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they come out as soon as the sun starts to go down.
Yep.
Right.
Same type of deal.
Interesting.
Stranger things.
Yeah. No, it's so different from up here because it's like, I try to explain to a lot of people about the way the mosquitoes are in Alaska and how we don't really have many other bugs. You know, we've got some flies, sure. We've got some bees.
Those little black flies will
the little gnats
ruin your day.
Yeah,
at least they ruin my day.
They can. Yeah,
get those bad horsefly summers up here.
Yeah, sometimes we get bad horse flies.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know that I've ever seen a horsefly in Alaska.
Dude,
oh wow,
Are you
won't
kidding?
see them for years sometimes, but then they'll hit for a year or two.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I can't say I've ever seen one, to be honest with you.
In areas that 1 year that camp 1 year was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there were more horseflies than mosquitoes.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was just atrocious.
Because I grew up around horseflies in Kansas. I mean, they're nasty little buggers.
I've been bitten enough to the point by horseflies up here now that when I see one around me at my bear bait, I have a little minor freak out, like trying to kill it. Like, oh nope, and I'm smacking and moving around. Like, that's a horsefly. That's gonna hurt because they take out a half a pound of flesh. It feels like when they bite, they're just awful.
But it's like, we don't have like the variety of bugs that a lot of places do, you know. But they're all replaced with mosquitoes. Right. We have the same number of bugs, just not the
We
variety.
don't have centipedes, but we have mosquitoes. We don't have killer bees, but we have mosquitoes.
Yeah, we don't have crickets, but we have mosquitoes.
Exactly. We don't have fireflies, but we have mosquitoes.
Right.
And that's over there. There was a large variety of bugs. There was one spider that Madeline saw. It was huge. Yeah. Big old spider. It was chasing her around. I was laughing. But we came out of the room and it was on like the little steps outside of our room. And she noticed it. Yeah. The guys initially thought it was a snake. No, it's just a spider. Like
my wife hates spiders, but she can tolerate snakes.
Mm-hmm.
I can kill a spider.
Yeah.
I hate snakes.
Me
and Indiana Jones, same person. Yeah. When it comes to snakes, I hate them.
And they warned us about the snakes over there, but I never saw one.
Really? You didn't see any?
That's why they warned you about them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So the on the spider thing though, and I've told my wife about this since, but I didn't tell her the night that it happened. But I was using the restroom before bed, and I noticed there was a spider crawling along the tile in the bathroom, which makes sense. We've had the windows open all day, the fan's blowing, it's hot, so I mean there's plenty of ways for it to get in. And I'm like, whatever, take my crock off and just smack it real quick. I'm like, oh, yep, you're done. And then it exploded into about 500 little baby spiders that were apparently crawling on its back. And I'm in the bathroom smacking these little baby spiders with my as they're like exploding, spreading everywhere.
Wow. Like a hand
and
grenade.
I'm just trying to like get them before they disappear and end up, in bed with us or something like that, And I ended up getting them all. But at one point she yells out, she's like, "What are you doing in there?" Like, nothing, babe. Just
playing
go
the
to
drums.
sleep. Yep, just playing the drums before bed. Just sleep soundly tonight. It's okay. Oh, but it was funny. And it wasn't even a big spider. That's the funny part. It was like a little thing. And I'm not super weird about spiders. I mean, I grew up around tons of them. I've been bitten by a lot of them. And so, I'm not super weird about them, but like, I was like,
yeah.
Hundreds of little microscopic ones, you don't want
there
those
comes a
climbing
point.
around.
Yeah.
But and then so we started hunting, but before we do that, let's take a break real quick.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to STEALTHYHunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
All right, so now we get to the point why we're there.
Yeah.
So we were there. We showed up on a Monday, and we had, I think, 7 days to hunt. So we were there 7 days, 8 nights. And the days were set up pretty neat. I mean, we'd wake up at around 5:30. We'd go in, we'd have breakfast in the lodge, full breakfast every day. I mean, they had like a full staff of cooks and people to take care of things. They had a full laundry service for us, so you really only had to bring like 2 sets of clothes, and then one would get washed every day, and then you just kind of rotate.
Yep, very nice.
It was really, really nice setup they had there. So you'd wake up every day and you'd go have breakfast, and then we'd take off typically around like 6:30 to go hunt.
And and the cool thing too about any meal that you were eating, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they were all made by the staff, all full-blown meals, and nobody ate until everybody was there.
Yeah.
Professional hunters, of course, and the owners, and everybody that was hunting.
Yeah.
Everybody would sit around the table and eat and converse.
Yep. And there were even days like for dinner time, like one party would be out later or something like that. We'd all wait for each other. It was really cool. It was a really neat setup.
Yeah.
But we'd go out and hunt in the mornings. I think that first morning it was so foggy and kind of nasty. I don't think we actually left until pretty late. Because you just couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Right. But then you'd go for your morning hunt. You'd come home for lunch. You go back to the lodge. You have lunch. You kind of lounge around. You could go to the pool. You could take a nap. Do whatever you wanted. Go back out around 3 or 4, depending on how hot it was outside, and then do your evening hunt and then come back for dinner. So really cool layout. Really cool system they have going on out there. And so day one, we wake up. And again, I was amazed at the lack of jet lag, and that's why I say it's you just don't sleep on the trip down there.
Yeah.
But I woke up that next day and I was just ready to go.
Yeah.
No jet lag, no slack. And they had coffee ready to go. So you wake up, have a cup of coffee, have some breakfast. We set out that morning looking for some stuff, and it's really an amazing property they have out there. I mean, it's I forget exactly how many thousands of hectares it is.
Yeah.
But it's a huge property. And the cool part is there's dirt roads everywhere, because it's a cattle farm.
Right.
And so that was another thing that kind of broke one of my expectations is, you're not really sure what to expect as far as the property goes because it's all private land there in South Africa.
Right.
So all of these wide open pieces of the land are all owned by somebody. The only place I ever really saw high fencing was by the highway system. It was just to keep animals from running across the highway.
Yeah.
Which seemed to work well. I was talking to them and they said that the number of like kudu and impala and stuff like that get hit on roadkill is very rare. It's very, very low numbers. And you think about that compared to in Alaska, I think there's, what do they estimate, like 600 to 800 moose are hit every year on the road system up here.
Yeah.
Easy. So I mean, it didn't sound like it was anything near that down there. So and that's really the only place we saw high fences. This whole property we were hunting everywhere we went. A couple of the pictures that get posted, you may see some fencing, but it's all cattle fencing because it was a big cattle farm that we were on. Yeah. And so they have, I think it's at max like 4 foot high. And then the bottom, like 18 inches in most places is open as well. And so your dikers and your reed bucks and whatnot, your smaller animals can kind of scoot under it. And then like your impala and your kudu can jump over it. And so these animals are free range. Yeah. They're not confined. They're not limited. There were several times actually where we would try to stalk something and then they would run and jump a fence into the next property. And it's like, oh, well, we don't have the rights to hunt over there.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that these animals just don't migrate. Really, they're not migratory animals.
Right.
So, you have such a big property that covers so many different hillsides and ranges and whatnot that these animals are just local. They just, that they hang out here. And the management system over there, I'll talk about that for a second. The management system over there is actually really, really good. And that's one thing that you kind of hear a lot of ignorant Americans talk about when they get on the topic of African hunting is, oh, you're hunting these animals and they're endangered or this or that or the other.
Right,
it's like, well, one, you have to look at each individual country over there because each country has its own management system.
Yeah.
So some areas you're not allowed to hunt elephants at all. Some areas are overrun with elephants to the point where if they don't cull them off with hunters, which pay $100,000 to go hunt an elephant, the local farmers are just going to go out there and start culling them themselves because they're tearing up the fields.
Right. Well, more like poaching because they're not supposed to.
Right.
But they'll go shoot them.
And sometimes that that depending on which country you're in, if the animal's on your land, you're allowed to do it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's your management system. So the government over there, you know, I think there are some basic rules, but like ultimately it's the landowners. And so like where we were at, I think it was 4 different landowners were in a concession, and they were all neighboring, and they had agreed that, okay, we'll work together, and, you know, we'll hunt all 4 of these properties. And so that's kind of what made it so huge. I mean, they're already huge individually, but then you combine them all. And they actually go through the processes kind of like the local fishing game does here. They'll hire a helicopter, they come out, they do their game counts, they figure out what they have as far as breeding age, adults and young and everything. And they'll figure out, okay, we can take this many out this year. And so when you're going over there for some of those bigger animals, like those kudu, you know, some years you might be able to take out 30, 40 kudu off this ranch, you know, because their numbers are really good. They're in a high swing. Sometimes it might only be 10. You know, so it kind of depends per year. That's why the prices can fluctuate, because of the rarity or overstock. And same with the cull packages. You know, how many animals can we afford for a cull package? You know, are the warthogs getting overpopulated? Are the impala starting to get overpopulated? And it was a really interesting system because, you know, here in Alaska, it's all public land. You know, for the most part, you have your differences between state land, federal land, native land, and all this different stuff, but it's all ultimately public use land. And so,
except for all of our parks,
we have, except for the parks. So we have, you know, the state fish and game and federal rules and stuff like that kind of dictate how many animals you can take out. And so there, it's all private, and it's very well run, you know, because these people want animals on their land. You know, and to a point, driving around that property, I mean, you couldn't go 30 minutes without seeing an animal. You know, you couldn't go. I'd be surprised if you could go 10 minutes without seeing an animal of some sort. It might not be something you want to hunt, but there's so much game there, so many animals. And so we went out. We had a package deal. We were chasing trophy springbuck, trophy blessbuck, trophy impala, and then we had a cull package for 4 animals. I ended up taking one of the culls off my wife's package because she wanted to hang out at the lodge, you know, have a vacation, which is what this was. You know, it's a vacation hunting trip. And so I got 8 animals. She ended up getting 6. But the first day, it was just so amazing being out there and just driving those roads. And it's all rough backcountry road. You know, it's all just farm lanes. You're going from one paddock to another. And
you're driving like a Land Cruiser.
Toyotas. I think they were Toyota Helix. Is that what the model was?
Hilux.
Yeah, it was very different than the ones we have here.
Very familiar with those trucks.
I really liked them, actually. They were super capable. I mean, every terrain that we drove in, I mean, on-road, off-road, everything. I mean, we actually told Ricky, I was like, you need to put in to actually have this thing on the Toyota commercials, because, you know, you always kind of laugh at those in the U.S., you know, when you're looking at those, and they're going across this almost like this backcountry, you know, like off-road park and everything. And it's like, nobody's going to pay $40,000 for a truck and then go rally it down through rivers and tree, you know, and
these guys
over log. It's like,
Yeah.
But these guys do, you know, and they need to. And we even talked about that, how they've tried other brands, and this is Toyotas are the only thing that can hold up to the abuse.
I'm telling you, there's something about them Toyota trucks.
I like Toyotas, man.
I like my Toyota just fine.
Yep, I do too.
If mine blew up tomorrow, I'd go buy a different one.
Yep. I think.
Just wish they made a 1-ton.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
It would probably get real bad gas mileage, though.
Yes.
Yours does pretty good, doesn't it?
Well, mine is an 05 with the 4.7 V8.
Yeah.
And I just hit 140,000 miles. And on the highway in the summertime in 2-wheel drive, driving down to Anchorage or something like that, I'll get like 23, 25 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I remember
it's
that.
Phenomenal.
You and I drove way out of town one day, and you were calculating the mileage based on it. And
I was shocked.
I was impressed.
Even in the wintertime in 4-wheel drive around town, I'll still get 18 miles a gallon.
I have a 2019 Tundra.
Yeah.
And I get.
You got the 5.7 V8.
Yep. Yeah. And I might get.
That's a guzzler.
17.
Yeah.
2-wheel drive if I'm lucky. And then 4-wheel drive, 11.
Wow.
11 or.
Yeah. That is a gas guzzler.
Diesel gets much better than that.
See, I've got a 2019 Chevy with the 5.3 Vortex in it, and it's. I mean, I'll get 23, 24 on the highway sometimes, but
No.
I get that in my diesel. Yeah, my 1-ton.
Yeah. But these things, it was cool because, you know, it was a littler truck.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's about the size
It's like
of a
the
Tacoma,
mid-size truck.
but they're all manual over there.
Yeah.
Manual is the more prevalent truck over there, not automatic like we have here, and they're diesel.
Yep.
And so it was really interesting, kind of the whole thing with it being my first trip out of the U.S. really, outside of just going to Canada, which is just, Eastern Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like just how different everything was, and the fact that it's like so primarily diesel and primarily manual, just it struck me as odd. I'm like, man, so many people in America probably can't even drive a manual these days. I mean,
well, it's theft proof.
Right. Yeah.
They won't be able to get the thing started.
Yeah. But, and the hunting over there was really another thing that kind of beat my expectations because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean had kind of explained a little bit about it to us. And I don't know. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a drive up and shoot or a real good stalk or like, what to expect. And it turns out, we had gone to the range that morning. We had practiced with the rifles. Both Marshall and I rented rifles, like for the reasons we talked about earlier, not wanting to bring them through London. And the rifles were very accurate. The only thing I came away from with renting a rifle when I go on a hunt next time was I'm going to bring one of those slip over recoil pads, not for recoil, but for LOP extension. Because I really, really had to get creative on some of the shots that I made.
Yeah.
Because it was just a standard Teague.
Yeah.
And so for me, my LOP is I think 14 and a half inches.
Yeah.
Which I think the standard on a Teague is like probably closer to like 12 and a half. Maybe pushing 13.
It's 13 and a quarter.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was short. And so my eye was always real close to the scope. So next time I'll bring just a slip over just so I can extend that out a little bit for myself. But,
yeah, that's a good idea.
But other than that, I mean, it was a great functioning rifle. We were shooting a 270 WSM. I think you guys had a 300 Win.
300, yep.
300 Win mag. So very capable rifles, both suppressed. I mean, just an absolute blast to shoot. We all brought hearing protection because, Sean was like, oh, make sure you bring hearing protection.
Didn't need it.
We went to the range and they started making sure everybody was zeroed. Everybody was shooting the same point of impact. And first shot goes off and I'm like, oh, I don't even need to plug my ears.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the decibel rating is in front of the suppressor, but back where your head is, it's marginal at best. It completely takes away the whole concussion of the shot.
Right.
There's just it lessens the recoil, not quite as much as a muzzle brake would,
right?
But enough, especially when you're shooting like a 270 or something like that. It's not a lot of recoil.
So you traveled halfway around the world just to end up shooting a short mag, just like Mariah,
basically. Yeah.
So have you seen the light?
I've never been opposed to the short mags. I've just never had a reason to buy one before.
Yeah. Well, now you
do. Actually, to be honest with you, back in the day, I was really looking at that 300 short mag.
Yeah.
That was a heavy consideration of mine.
I've had 2 different ones.
Yeah.
They're good shooting guns.
Yep. No problem with the short mags. But in that 270, I mean, it smacked the daylights out of just about everything. I mean, there was, as long as you did your part as a shooter, I mean, we barely had any animals go more than 20, 30 yards.
Yeah.
My blessed buck did a big loop around and then tipped over. I posted a video of that. Everything my wife shot just tipped right over. I think her blessed buck ran maybe 10 yards, and then tipped over. But
we started calling her Killer.
Yeah, she had a bunch of different nicknames over there. I think the first one was Lady Killer. She didn't like that.
Lady Killer. Oh yeah, I can see how she wouldn't like that.
And then I think it was the Lethal Lady was the next one. And then
I could see how she wouldn't like that one.
She didn't mind that one. And then I think what we landed on, I think Steve came up with it. It was Femme Fatale was what was her final nickname. So it's I think it's from some movie or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't know, maybe a James Bond movie or something. But
I'm gonna say it sounds kind of British.
Yeah,
British, French, something like that.
Yeah, Steve started coining all these nicknames for her. But it was true. I mean, she did phenomenal over there. I mean, she actually killed the first animal. So we went over there and we started hunting that morning. And Ricky looks at us. He's like, who's shoot her up? And I'm like, oh, she is. I flew her all the way across the country, or all the way across the world to come hunting. Like I'd like to see her kill an animal over here. And so we looked around, and it's a weird time of year over there because it's early. We were the first group of hunters for the year. And so the warthogs still have their piglets with them. The impalas have just given birth and whatnot. So the cull package is real specific this time of year because you can't, just like in America, you can't shoot a sow bear with cubs or anything like that. It's the same process over there, just that's self-imposed by the landowners.
Yeah. And
so we had to be real particular with the impala we were shooting and the warthogs and whatnot, but we managed to find a couple of ewe impalas, which for impalas, even though they look like deer, they use ram and ewe instead of buck and doe. So we found a ewe, and it was really cool. It took us 45 minutes to move in on it. And it busted us twice, and we had to work around this pond, or they call them dams over there.
Yeah.
And so we worked around that, and she made a shot. I want to say that one was like 250 yards. And she did just phenomenal. They use shooting sticks over there. So he had the
quad stick.
Yeah, well, his was actually five leg.
Okay.
So it was the quick sticks, I think is what it was called. I forget the brand name.
It's a tripod on the front with the support that comes to the back.
So the support's on the front. So what it is two V-shaped sticks. And so those come out to the sides.
Right.
So you've got 2 points of contact, one on each side. You've got a spot for the butt of the rifle, a spot for the front of the stock, and then his had a supporting fifth leg on the front. So that then you could just kind of pull it backwards until it hit the dirt, raise the rifle up to the top of the back of the animal, and then when you rested back down, it would almost put you perfectly on that kill zone. And it was really stable, super stable. I was amazed. I've never shot off anything like that before, and I was amazed at how stable you really could get.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I never even used that fifth leg, to be honest with you. I would just use the 4. And it was just, it was a really solid shooting platform for standing. And I've almost been debating getting one for up here, because if you're riding around on a wheeler chasing caribou or
Spartan Precision makes something like that.
They've got a tripod that actually has the legs at the back, basically.
Does it really?
About, but with their tripod built, like it's just
and it has the back support on
addition into the tripod.
Nice.
Like you can buy a tripod and then buy the quad sticks and add them into it.
It's nice.
Really sweet.
But you can also take it apart to the point that it is just a big sitting shooting bipod, and you can spread it all the way out and shoot prone with it.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's these ones that you could spread them out as far as you want.
Completely modular system. Yeah, it's very cool.
You just pay the price for Spartan.
Hey, they're good. They make good stuff. So it's not a heartache to buy that.
It's expensive for a reason. It's well made.
Yeah. Yeah. So she got that. That was the first morning. We were able to get that. And then I got a, let's see. I think I got a small pig. I think that same morning before lunch, I want to say. It was right before we came home for lunch. So we were driving around and same thing. It was this itty bitty little pig. I posted kind of a picture of it. It's the one that says bacon. That was my first pig there. And it was a tiny little thing, but it was cool because that one was an interesting shot. They like to hang out with the livestock. So the warthogs will hang out with the cattle and the goats and the sheep and whatnot, and they kind of just group together. So you got to be a little careful when you're going after those.
Bunch of little posers,
because you don't want to shoot somebody's livestock, right?
right.
Which I even asked that question. I was like, how often does that happen? And they're like, that's pretty rare, but every once in a while. Like, sometimes the client doesn't really listen when to what you're saying. They get excited or something like that.
Shoots the beef cow.
But yeah, so I got that pig, and then we went back out that evening, and I was able to get a little spiker impala, which I have got to say,
that's a pretty nice one though.
Yeah, even the spikers are cool, because they kind of like, the trophies they get real wide at the base, and then they come straight up.
Yeah,
those spikers, they're almost like a diamond shape when they're real young like that, and so but they're still. They're still a sizable animal, and that was one thing that amazed me about the animals over there is they're a lot bigger than the pictures made them seem. The springbuck, the little guys, that we were shooting, they're about not much smaller than the black-tailed deer we have here in Alaska. The impala are bigger than any whitetail I've ever seen. And I would say blessbuck are probably caribou sized. Would you say, Marshall? Yeah.
And see, I was thinking the springbuck were more like our pronghorn.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
our speed goats. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, the blessed way better than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, like looking at
way
pictures
better,
online,
yeah.
and the Impala were the ones that really impressed me because, and maybe it's because I've always seen them on TV next to elephants, which are also way bigger in person.
Yeah.
And so they just look so tiny on TV. You know, they're just bounding around everywhere and they look itty bitty, but they were good sized animals. You know, they weren't. There was no ground shrinkage at all.
Right.
It was almost the opposite, you know. And so,
well, it's deceptive when you're not used to that kind of terrain and you watch a video and they're just kind of disappearing into the grass.
Yeah.
Then you get there and the grass will just about swallow a small car.
Right.
And so then it puts it into perspective. Oh, yeah, this is actually a lot taller vegetation than I thought.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and the cool thing with Impala too is they know they're on the menu. And so they're real hard to move in on.
Yeah.
You know, they're very alert. They're very aware of what's around them, and you've got to play the wind right. You've got to. It's a good, real stalk.
Yeah, see, and I think it's because of the options they give you. So, like when we first arrived, Sean had already talked to him, and we had the option of either if you want to ride around in the back of the truck and shoot out of the back of the truck, that's an option. But you know, we're all friends, and like they paired us up. And like I use the quad sticks, and so me and Steve would, you know, share the rifle, and I don't know how, you know, I was just that got to shoot first. So if I shot, then he would shoot next, you know, and then but we all wanted to spot stalk.
Yeah.
So with all that wide open terrain, we would drive around in a pickup, and then you would see the animals. And you would stop way, way in advance. You know, we were easily walking 12 miles a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we're riding around in the back of a pickup truck going, woohoo, you know, and seeing a herd of animals and shooting into them. It's, you know, it's not even close to that. Like, you know, you know, which was a total deception because I thought, you know, all the shows that I'd seen, that's how basically, you know, they just ride around in trucks and shoot. So no, we'd ride around and we'd get out and you would walk beside your hunter, which, by the way, your professional hunter, the package that they have is you can do 1-on-1 or you can do 2. If you do 1-on-1, I want to say it's like $400 or $500 more.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you want to have, you know, you share the professional hunter, which is what we did, you know, then you can do that. So you would walk with the professional hunter and you would see the group of animals. You'd get out of the truck, you'd take off, you'd do your full blown spot and stalk, which is awesome. And you would get up there and you might walk 3 or 4 miles. You set up the shooting sticks. You look at it. He's there. He's like, no, there's nothing in there you can shoot. You know, you don't have the decision, you know, not unless it's a trophy animal. And then he says, is that big enough for you? And he's already giving you the green light there. And if it's big enough for you, then you have the decision to pull the trigger.
Right.
You know, but all the spotting and stalking is that was another totally different thing, you know, because again, everything I'd seen, you're riding around the back of a pickup truck and just shooting out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not even nowhere near that.
And that's what was so amazing to me. You know, I mean, it was a week-long straight of just real good hunts, you know, and we talked about the shot opportunities were very prevalent, you know, they were everywhere, but you had to work to get them. You know, it wasn't like you said, you're not driving up and just launching bullets into a herd of animals. You know, they have specific ones you're allowed to shoot, whether it's calls or trophies. They have, you know, and the other good thing with both the PHs is they were really good about gauging the trophy quality of the animal.
Yes.
Like even our very first day, we found a couple of trophy Impala where, you know, he looked at us and he's like, you know,
we can do better.
You could shoot that, but it's trophy class, but it's not a good trophy.
Yeah.
And so he was able to basically put us in front of a better one. And it was really, really cool that they were willing to do that, you know, and really they know there's more on the property. They know we're probably going to get a crack at them. So first couple days, let's not, you know, blow out the young trophies. Let's wait, find a good mature one.
Right.
But honestly, I had just as much fun cull hunting as I did trophy hunting.
Right.
You know, because it didn't matter the size of the horns for me. I was over there. I'd paid for a couple of trophies just to have some nice skulls on the wall, but like, I'd go over there just to hunt a cull package every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same process. You're still, you see the animal, you have to gauge the animal. Is it cull worthy? Is it too big? Is it too small? Does it have piglets if it's a female, or does it have, calves?
Right.
And then you're actually working your way into that animal, no matter what size it is. They're equally the same. And so it was just such a blast the whole time. And
yeah.
And I know we got three animals our first day. I think you got a pig too the first day, right?
Yeah, the first day I got a pig. We were on our way back, and you got to be. We had seen many animals. We would have had multiple opportunities to shoot, but one, either they weren't in our hunt package, we decided not to shoot, and then the third was, did it have piglets and stuff? So yeah, we just, it was pretty quick too. It came running across. It was a little one, and I had to break the ice, and I was satisfied with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Drew blood.
Yeah. And it was funny too, because both you and I did the same thing to our pigs. So there's the ones you're allowed to cull off. I mean, and it can take 10 years for a warthog to reach full trophy value. These things, it takes a long time for the tusks to grow that big. And so they'll oftentimes let you shoot real young ones because there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so the one that you shot, they were almost identical. Like, we got back to the meat shack or the skinning shack and put them side by side. I was like, oh, man, they're almost the same pig,
Yeah.
And we hit it in almost the exact same spot because the vitals are always further forward there.
Yes.
And so you shoulder shoot.
Yep.
And on both of them, they were such small pigs that it actually kind of opened up the chest underneath and between the legs. Yeah.
Oh.
And it was really, really interesting to see that, actually, because it's how small those animals were, but still fun. Again, still a good hunt. They're still very alert and very, very, I don't know, just, they know they're on the menu, and it's sometimes what you see in those videos when you're looking at, African hunts. These guys just kind of get in real close, and the animals just don't seem to be paying attention, and it's just like, it wasn't like that at all. You really had to be on your game. So that was the most fun for me. And so day one was a huge success, a huge win. I mean, everybody had a blast. We all got back to the lodge that evening and just chit chatting about it and talking about it, and huge dinner. They roll out. I mean, like he said, it's all homemade food and everything. And
yeah. Did they serve you up any warthog to eat?
So we did. It took, what was that? It was later in the
It was
hunt.
probably like on our sixth night.
Yeah, it was like the sixth night there, but they finally, it was actually, I think it might have been the one you shot.
It was very delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did they have much fat on them?
No, not hardly any.
Real lean.
Yeah, real lean. And so they had this really awesome skinning shack there, and I took a full video of it because I'm gonna replicate it on property. It's awesome. But you back the truck up to it, you can unload the animals, and then they do all their skinning. You hang it up on hooks.
Yep.
And it's the quickest, cleanest process I've ever seen. I mean, there's no hair on the meat. There's no dirt, no nothing. They bring the animals back whole. They'll hang them up, skin them, gut them. They have a water hose. They'll spray them down, make sure they're nice and clean.
Yep.
And then
put them in the freezer.
They go right to the back of the room, which is a freezer or a fridge, I guess. They hang them in a cold room.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets hung for meat, to where they can they have a butcher shop that they'll use the meat for.
They let it age and then they butcher it up.
Yep. And so one of the warthogs that were shot earlier in the week, they let it hang for most of the week, and then they cut the back straps out of it and cooked it up for us on the braai, as they call it. So
they're used to beef, since they have that cattle ranch, and they were just amazed at how much we liked the warthog, because they're like, beef is where it's at. But really, no, it was really good.
It was super good. And they had like this, I don't know what the dipping sauce was, but it had a little bit of tang to it, just a little bit of kick. And so you took these little slabs of backstrap. I mean, they cut it into little cubes, and you dip it in the, man, it was so good. It was so good.
Yep.
Man, it's past my lunchtime.
Yeah. Right.
My stomach has been churning over here, man. Gotta hurry this thing up.
We got to eat every animal. You know.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we got to taste every animal that was shot. Not every individual, but every type.
Did you eat anything raw?
Why you got to bring that up?
I mean, it's just kind of an initiation thing for some outfits. I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, then you have to talk about it.
Yeah. No, it was a different taste. You know, but having to take a bite of the liver. I like liver cooked. You know.
Oh, so you normally like liver?
I normally like liver, but
that's weird to begin with.
When it's kind of warm,
yeah,
and the fresh flavor is
kind of tastes like you're eating a 9-volt battery.
Yeah.
It was
well, and there was a couple of those too, because even Madeline, when she shot her first impala, she got the blood on her face, as like her first African animal and whatnot. Yeah. And so she was all about that. You know, it's like. We're those kinds of people. So, and so no, it was fun though. They had a
that's funny.
And so day 2, let's see, I think we did bless buck the very next morning. So the next on our trophy list. So we hadn't killed any trophies yet. We just got those 3 culls. And so we went into this other ranch that they had an agreement with, worked out the hunting rights for it, and that one was pretty cool. That's the video I posted on Instagram of me getting mine. But the funnier part before that is Madeline was lining up on a shot at one that was probably 200 yards away, somewhere in there. And then just out of nowhere, a big one pokes its head out from behind this bush like 60 yards away, something like that. And so her and the PH are up there on the quad sticks, and they're getting lined up, and he's kind of explaining, you know, which one it is that she should shoot. And she looks down, she's like, well, what about that one? He's, and it was bigger than the ones that they were looking at. And so he gauged it really quick and like, yep, and just moved the sticks. And was like, all right, take that one. And so she was able to get that one, real nice shot on it. And like I said, it went maybe 10 yards and tipped over. But one of the good things about having the mods or the suppressors is those ones that were out at like 300 yards.
Didn't even pick their head up.
They didn't even, they hardly even noticed anything.
Yeah.
And so they just were still hanging out there. And so I was actually able to get on the sticks right after her. And that's when I took that shot. I think that was a 350-yard shot at that one.
Gotcha.
Off the sticks. And so it was back to back. I mean, hers was already laying down. We'd verified it was down. Took a shot at the next one. Now it's down. I mean, and it was. It was fun. You never really see that much in Alaska. Maybe on a good caribou hunt or something like that. But
right.
Which I would probably equate the bless buck was very close to what a caribou hunt would be for up here. But it was that was a really cool spot too, because the bless buck are more wide open area. So we had gone from hunting in those hills with brush and whatnot, kind of like real West Texas looking, to kind of more open plains looking for the bless buck. And so that was a really fun day. We went out that morning and got those. And then later that night, I think you guys went out to the same spot that we had got those bless buck. But while you guys were out there, we went back out behind the lodge, and Madeline, we found a couple of coal warthogs that, he said, yep, there's no piglets, there's no nothing, they're young. And she gets the one at 30 yards, sorry. So sneaks up, gets in position. It's real thick brush and everything like that.
Yeah.
Gets the one. The other one runs off, and within 20 seconds comes right back and stands broadside. So the guy's like, hey, go for it. Racked another round. Boom. 2 hogs down in like 30 seconds.
Wow.
It was amazing. I think I don't know if I posted that picture yet, but that was probably one of the most fun aspects for me on this trip, was just watching her hunt and really getting to be out there and experience that with her. It was a lot of fun. And then I think that's when you guys were out there.
Yeah, I think
chasing.
that first morning, we went out, and if I remember right, I think that was the morning that Steve, the guy that I was partnered up with, was he shot his impala, and I had shot another warthog that morning. And then when y'all had done your hunt that morning, that afternoon is when we went out over there, and I got my Impala and my blessed buck.
Yeah. And they're really interesting creatures. They look. I don't know if you've seen the blessed buck, but they look like their faces look like goats. Honestly, if I was to say anything, like the way their eyes are and their noses are.
Real wacky colors. Just kind of offset weird patterns and patches in places that most other animals don't have colors there.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah. I really like their horns. They have really good looking horns on them. And so we didn't do much for shoulder mounts off this trip. But we did the skulls and because the skulls on those things really look cool, I think.
I'll bet they do. Yeah. Well, it's got such a goofy long nose on it. I'm sure that looks really cool for a freedom mount. Isn't that right, Mariah?
That's right.
No more European mounts. Freedom mounts.
I had shoulder mounts done on everything except for that blessed buck because just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, right.
But look at that on the
European mount, and I got the skin.
Yeah. Nice. Well, and they even had a shoulder mounted blessed buck in the lodge, and that was kind of what helped make up my mind as I was looking at it. And I was like, it's a good looking animal. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm very excited to go hunt it, but
it was like a horse that stuck his face in a bucket of paint. Just kind of goofy looking.
So was that? I think that was the evening you got your kudu. Is that right? Or was that later in the week?
Yeah,
they kind of blend together after a while.
They do blend together because the amount of opportunities, so I might have my days wrong, but
the target rich environment.
It's very, very target rich environment. And so we're out and we went to this other part of the ranch.
Yeah.
And we seen the blessed buck and we're getting out to do our stalk on them. And as we're walking through the high grass over to the right, the tracker that was with us, he noticed just the horn sticking up in the grass underneath a tree. And so he got everybody's attention and we moved around and got eyes on, and it just happened to be a trophy kudu, which of course is not in our hunting package. And I was very easily coerced into purchasing that thing, and it was beautiful, so anyway, the PH moved me around to a location and we had to wait for it to stand up, and as it stood up, then it really made up my mind, as I was looking at it through the scope, I was like, and it pulled the trigger, and I don't know, he might have walked 50 yards when he fell over, and when we got over to it, I never really paid attention to a kudu, but they're easily the size of an elk. Size elk. And
they're a lot narrower chested, but about the same overall size.
Yep. And when we were trying to get that thing into position to take photos, it was all we could do to roll it around to get it out.
Imagine.
Yeah, and it was awesome. It was a good decision.
Yeah.
And then after we did that, we marked it so we could leave it there, and we continued on over. And then, I think that's when we ended up getting 2 blessed bucks and an Impala that afternoon.
Which that was a really cool property out there. Because that one, it was right at the base of this massive hill.
Yeah.
And so it was like a good mixture of terrain features and whatnot. And I mean, it was just tons of animals.
Yes.
I mean, and yeah, no, I wish I could have been there when you guys got that kudu. I remember we were sitting at the lodge, and I forget who it was that walked into the lodge. Well, we were already sitting there, and you guys had come back late. We were waiting for you guys to come back so we could have dinner. Somebody was telling me, "Oh yeah, they got a kudu," and that was one thing I'd really hoped to take while we were over there, but Delta Airlines took my kudu money. So I ran over there, and I mean, they are big animals, and it's again kind of one of those things, like you see them running around and you don't think they're that big.
Yeah.
But the one you got, I mean, that's a
it's
good
massive
size animal.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing it get drug out of the back of the truck, I mean, it's huge. I mean, and they're just such beautiful creatures. I mean, they really are. I mean, just the way that their horns like spiral up like that, and just the size, and they have those really nice defined stripes on the side of their body and everything. Oh, man,
they call them the gray ghost for a reason. They just disappear.
Don't they? Yes.
Yeah.
We were driving down and we would see them, and then we're all right. Everybody's trying to pull their binos out to look, and they were gone.
Just gone.
Yeah. And there's not even anything for them to hide behind. You know?
Yeah.
They have a good camouflage, and that light gray, but the pinstripe somehow helps break up the solid of the color and something about them. But
and we saw a bunch of females. Everywhere we'd go, we'd see female kudu running around, and we saw several bulls too. But I mean, and the females, it's amazing. You'd have 10 of them running in a line, and then all of a sudden they're just gone.
Yeah,
like they'd get down into a little drainage or something like that, and just gone. Like,
ever since I was a little kid watching Africa videos, I've always thought, the gray ghost. When I go, kudu is one of the top 3 on my list for Plains game for sure.
Yeah, that's the next time I go over, that's going to be on my list.
Did you guys see any sable while you were over there?
Yes,
you did.
Yeah, they had some on the property.
Was it just black sable?
Oh, they were red.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had some red ones too.
Some different ones. Yeah. Those are probably my 3rd overall favorite. Kudu, Gemsbuck, and sable.
I'm gonna have to probably make a trip just for that one because
they're like what, $4,500 or something. Like
they're
that.
expensive.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Sable and now eland are getting way up there as far as prices go, but especially like that the Lord Derby's eland. That is a different subspecies of the normal eland, and it has more of a dark mane underneath of its neck, and they just look really, really cool. It's almost like a 2-tone paint job on that.
Oh,
and eland are the largest antelope in the world.
So is that kind of like the difference between a blessed buck and a bontabuck then? Like how bontabucks look just like blessed buck, but with more color and like a more rich color.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of the same concept.
Yep.
Has anybody read Hemingway's Green Hills of Africa?
I read it a long time ago.
I'm sure Sean
has.
Yeah.
Probably. It's a really good book.
I think he might have talked about it on the podcast before.
But it's an actual accounting written somewhat in a novel style.
Yeah.
But it's an actual accounting of Hemingway's. One of Hemingway. Did he only go on one, or?
I think he went more than once.
Anyway, on one of his hunts in Africa, one of his safaris.
Well, it was back in the early days when a lot of those trips was just to catalog information about, all right, this is this animal, and there's another one, and they look the same body-wise, but this one's got different colors. And so they started distinguishing, like the common eland and then the Lord Derby eland. And of course, they got named after all these people, and I don't know who Lord Derby was, but apparently he liked to hunt, maybe. Or the guy that was naming the animals owed him money, and so.
and that's the cool thing over there. It's like we even saw a couple of black impala.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Those are really neat.
So pretty,
those are
dude.
so neat.
I was joking. So my last day over there, I had like one cull. Or no, this was second to last day. It was my second to last cull. And I told him, I was like, I really want to hunt one more impala. Like, I love hunting impala. And we got in on this group, and there was a black impala in the group. I just leaned over. I was like, if that black impala is a spiker, can I shoot it? He's like, no. It doesn't count as a call.
That's going to cost you, buddy.
But it was a big one. And I looked at it through the scope for a little while, and it was if it wasn't so much more, I would have pulled the trigger.
And
but it's like,
click, the safety comes off.
You're
like, what are you doing?
5 or 6 times the price.
Oh, wow.
But they're rare. You don't see a whole lot of them, but I mean, it's so pretty. They're really
neat.
Really cool.
I would feel bad shooting one of those and not full body mounting it.
Yeah,
you'd have to use the whole thing.
You have to, yeah. That to do it justice.
Yeah,
you guys
exactly.
See any
Nyala? I don't think we saw any. They did have some on the property.
Okay.
But we didn't actually see any. I saw one buffalo. Not water buffalo.
Cape buffalo.
Cape buffalo.
You did?
We did, yeah. So
any pictures of it?
I did, yeah.
Did.
I'd like to see
they're
that.
very bad pictures. It was.
I'd still like to see
really
that.
thick brush.
Yeah.
And it
well,
wouldn't
naturally.
Yeah. And so I got one picture of it as it was walking away because just for a split second it was looking at us through this clearing, and then I got a couple pictures of its head through.
Was it a bull or a cow?
It had horns, so.
Well, they both have horns.
I don't know. I saw it for literally like 5 seconds.
Okay.
But I was able to snap some pictures and everything.
That's really cool.
It was right on the other side of a fence as we were driving down this back road. And then as soon as it saw us, it kind of turned around and started walking away. So.
And you're sure it wasn't a big black beef cow?
I'm positive. Yeah. Which, driving around there, you'd be surprised how many times you'd be like, oh, what's that over there? Livestock. Yeah. Like either a goat or something. Yeah. And so,
that looks like a neat Impala. Sean, is that a big one? And you just,
still counts in my book.
Yeah. That's a trophy right there.
Well, and so, and that's, I don't know. One thing kind of over there too, we had it one morning, the next day, actually, third day, moving right along. We were going after springbuck. Mm-hmm. And so we, again, went to a different property where they had a bunch of springbuck that they were willing to let us go shoot. And it was so foggy that morning. We drove to the property, but we just kind of hung out. We had to wait for the fog to clear. And these cattle ranchers pushed their cattle up to these feedlots where we were. And it was really cool to see that, we got really up close to them. I mean, and those cattle are really well maintained over there. I mean, they're just fatty. They're
healthy.
They're real healthy looking. There is like a tick problem over there, but the ticks don't seem to, or they really good about, I don't know what the word would be, de-ticking the cattle over there. They have like these whole stations where they push them through and they spray them down with this stuff that kills all the ticks and everything. And but they're just really good looking cattle over there. I mean, it's no wonder that the beef tastes so good. I mean, and it's really. I was talking to somebody. It's the South African beef is some of the best.
Really,
you can have. It's the fat quality. And the fat content is like feedlot quality. As far as how much fat is there, but it's all 100% grass fed.
Yeah,
their whole life they're just out there.
They don't have any reason to use anything else.
Yeah. There was a couple of times they put like some like molasses mix out there just to give them a little bit of extra minerals and stuff like that. But
bear
other
bait.
than that, yeah, basically. But other than that, they're all grass fed, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah.
But that next morning, we got going after springbuck, the trophy springbuck. We really got both ends of the hunt experience, and it really became clear that day how you could come away from one of these trips with two different ideals on what it's like to hunt in Africa. Because we sat out there, we waited for the fog to lift. As soon as the fog lifted, we spotted some on an opposing hillside. We're like, oh, there they are, cool. So we ranged them. We moved into about 450 yards, might have been a little bit less than that. And he asked me, are you comfortable taking this shot? I was like, yeah, absolutely. As long as your rifle's accurate enough, then yeah, 100% I can make that shot. So line up on the sticks, get on the nice trophy, squeeze the trigger, boom, flop, done. 15 minutes into the day.
Yeah.
And I got one on the ground. I'm like, man, that was almost too easy. This thing.
We didn't have that experience.
No. Well, and turns out that was the last time we had that experience because those springbuck are so alert, like even more so than Impala.
Yeah. They're wiry.
And so I shot my one. They went running off. The rest of them did. We went up and grabbed it and we went and hung it in this little like cattle barn that they had there, keeping it in the shade, trying to make sure it didn't spoil while we were out trying to get Madeline one. And we spent the next 5 hours chasing these things from one side of the hill to the other side of the hill, over across the property, back to this side of the property, like all over. And the craziest thing was you'd barely pop your head over a rock in the hillside and
they were gone.
20 heads would just go whoop, looking right at you and gone.
Yeah.
But it was so hard to move in on these things. And on top of that, there were black wildebeest running around in the same property.
Oh, yeah.
So if you weren't spooking the springbuck, you were spooking the black wildebeest, and then they're running all over the place and spooking each other. And
those wildebeest almost look like they're just belong in a mental facility. Like they just run around and jump and shake their head, and it's like, what is wrong with you?
Clowns of the plains.
They are goofy animals.
Kind of like
those look goofy.
Yeah.
Those
look
goofy.
I like the black wildebeest. I'll be getting one of those next time.
To me, a blue wildebeest I would shoot.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's the way that the black ones, it comes down and swoops back up.
Yeah.
That's what does it for me. The blue ones are cool.
Yeah.
But I love that the way it swoops all the way down the side of their face and then comes back up. on the top of their head for the black ones. It's just a really neat looking horn.
They call the blue wildebeest a poor man's buffalo.
Yeah. I could see that.
Super thick skinned, real tough. They can soak up a lot of lead.
Yeah.
And they're hard to get in on.
Well, and I was reading an interesting thing about the black wildebeest down there in South Africa, actually. Apparently, back in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was some royalty that went over there, and they were, going on this, what they called the greatest hunt or something like that.
Yeah.
And allegedly the numbers are that they took out 5,000 of them in one day.
Oh my.
Yeah. Like, and there were like millions taken that year, like exported. I don't know what they were using for whether it was the meat or the hides or what it was, but just in one day.
Whoa.
I don't even know how that's possible.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I don't know, it really, it's probably the most annoying thing to me about like the way the world used to be. Kind of the same thing that happened to the American bison.
Yeah.
It's just the want and just
a lot of different animals in North America had that happen.
That's true.
The American bison just got the most press about it.
That's very true. But to see that happened, all over the world, it wasn't just in America. It wasn't just in, with certain species. It was just like, oh, there's tons of these things. Let's go shoot as many as we can.
Open
just
season.
Volley into it seemed crazy to me, but I mean, supposedly the numbers are back up now and they're recovered and everything. But I mean, it was just crazy to read about that and that history. It's a very similar history to the hunting in Americas.
So question, you shot your springbuck.
Yes.
You walked up to it for the recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Took your pictures with it.
Yep.
Did you notice any smells?
So it has, they have a scent gland on the back of their neck.
Was his little ruff up when you got to him, or was it down?
No, it was down.
Okay.
Yeah, it was down. But we kind of rubbed our fingers in it and smelled it, and it was a sweeter smell.
Did it smell like Frito chips?
Kind of,
because
I could see where
that's the most common thing is people that shoot them at close range and they walk right up to them while that ruff is still up.
Yeah, I could see that
on the top of their back, and they smell that and they say, "Man, it smells like Frito potato chips."
Right.
See.
I could see that.
I was just curious if you'd gotten that.
I thought they were joking with me, and so I went up there and they got a picture of me, and they told me it's actually by the back end, and so it's all roughed up right there too. So I'm down on my hands and knees going, and I didn't smell nothing,
Yeah, no, it's up by the front shoulder.
Yeah.
So the shit they got me
up on the top of the back. You're like, oh, get a picture of the white guy.
And I have that picture. So
then that's the one you shot at
670 yards on the run.
On the run, yep.
On the run.
That was my story. No, that was my story.
Was it like 90 yards?
It was like. I don't know what it was, 375.
Three something, yeah.
Yeah. But all the shots on those things were super far away.
You couldn't get close to them.
Yeah.
That's some long shooting for Africa.
And so for the, Steve, we pulled up and it was his turn to shoot first. And we spotted an old one just walking along by itself. And, so he got his first. And then after he got his, it took me not 5 hours.
Yeah.
But it took me probably another hour or two before I got mine, and it was a far shot. And it was how I got lucky was, I don't know, I guess they're called buck and does too. I'm not sure. But this one buck was trying to get into the herd of another one, and he chased it off. And so now I had two of them. He was chasing one down like a little fence line. And he said, take either one. So I just shot the one that was pushing the other one away. So now that guy, he ended up going back and taking over the herd.
That worked out good for him.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
But
no, but it was funny though, because everybody jumped on the wagon with that story. So we get back to the lodge for lunch, and like, oh man, yeah, Marshall got his at like almost 700 yards. On the run, 670 at least. And
I said, that's my story.
I heard it from one person. I'm like, no way. Yeah. No way. Like, and then all of a sudden somebody else is telling me the same thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? These Alaskans can shoot. Heck yeah. Like, we're going to show these guys how Alaskans shoot. And so then I think it was like later that afternoon, we'd gone and taken a nap and everything like that, and woke up for the afternoon hunt. And I asked him, man, did you really shoot that thing at 670 yards? He's like, nah. I don't even remember. I don't know who came up with the story, but like everybody ran with it, and it was just the funniest thing.
That's funny.
Was like, but no. So that was an interesting day because that was the first day it really got hot over there. That morning was hot, and so my wife actually after that trip, all over the farm looking for those springbuck. And she got hers almost the same distance as me. I think it was like 420, 430 yards, somewhere in there. Great shot. I mean, phenomenal shot. That thing took 3 steps and then did a somersault, and it was done. Had a chunk of lung hanging out the other side. It was a very clean, immediate kill. And so we loaded up. We went back to the lodge, and I think she didn't want to be out in the sun anymore because we had a different event the next day. And so I went out that evening, and I actually was able to get my trophy Impala. And when I mentioned earlier that Impala are extremely alert, I ended up having to hold on this Impala for 15 minutes. Because so we went up to the very top of this ridge. We spotted it from about 800 yards away. And we worked our way down to it, and we got in. I think I was about 90 yards from this thing. And we barely got the stick set up, and I was just trying to find it in the scope. And I finally found it. It was behind a bush with just its head sticking out. And the PH says, "Don't move. They're looking right at us." And 4 females were looking directly at us.
Oh, yeah.
I was not in my shooting position yet. So I was just hunched over on these sticks with my back all hunched and wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
And this thing, I don't know what bush it was eating that was so amazing that it took 15 minutes to get done with it. But I'm looking at this thing's head through the scope for 15 minutes straight.
Wow.
And neither of us could move. So the PH is on his binos, and he's not super comfortable. My back's cramping, spazzing. My arm went to doing a little shaky thing, after being there for a while. And it finally this thing stepped out just enough that I could see the shoulder. And he goes, "Can you see the shoulder?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Take it." And I put it right. It was a little bit high on the shoulder, but I put it in right on the shoulder, and this thing just tipped over.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you how happy I was to take that thing, because the whole time those 4 ewes were looking right at us, and I don't know why they didn't spook. Maybe just the fact that we weren't moving or not.
Yeah.
But they would like 2 of them would dip their head down.
Yeah.
And take a few bites while the other 2 were watching us, and then they would like switch back and forth.
Wow.
And I couldn't shift my feet. I couldn't get into a more comfortable position to shoot. Nothing. And but finally got this thing down, and we rolled up to it. And the funniest thing was it was super clean. There was no blood anywhere. The entrance wound was super clean. There was no exit wound. It just got lodged in the offside hide. And it was like, oh, well, cool. Roll it over.
That seemed to be on like most of the animals.
Yeah, roll it over, take some pictures, and let's get out of here. And so, and mine was a really nice, good example of a trophy Impala. It was kind of the standard, what you would expect. It came real wide out at the base, and then just nice parallel all the way to the top, real even on the tops.
Yeah, that's cool.
And real thick too. I was really surprised at how thick those horns were on those Impalas. And I mean, all of this, it feels like we've been talking for a really long time. All of this is in 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's amazing about over there. It's just, you can do so much. But so I'm doing a skull mount on that one. I'm real excited for that. And it was just, they're such cool animals, those Impalas are. I mean, they're just, I don't know. I think every time I go over there, I'm gonna book an Impala hunt, even if it's just a cull package. Like I love hunting those things. They're just such cool animals. Let's see.
You really have to watch I mean, not only were we, having to do the spot and stalk, but, like my professional hunter was always watching the wind. He was always doing some type of check because we got busted so many times. And we're only talking about the parts that we, took an animal. You know,
right? Yeah.
That not all the stalks that were spoiled, and the hundreds of yards walking, like you would spot them really far away, and then you'd stalk all the way over there to get there, and they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, what spooked them, you know, it was multiple stalks that were busted.
Yeah. And I was going to say the wind shifting direction, but also because there was such a vast amount of animals there, you know, you could see those impala over there and decide, okay, well, the wind's going this way. I want to make my approach around this side. And then boom, you run into a group of 10 cow kudu or female kudu. I don't know what
cow.
And now all of a sudden they go running into the impala, and the impala spook because the kudu are running. And so now everything's, I mean, you know, and warthogs busting your stalk and things like that. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. It was definitely not a gimme on any of those shot opportunities.
A lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. But the coolest part about the trip was that we didn't just go over there and, you know, hang out in a pool and go hunt and come back and hang in the pool more and go hunt. We also had a couple of days where we went and did other things. So one day we went out, we drove like 2 hours, something like that, and went to a beach and we were shark fishing. And so that was a really cool day. We caught, I think, how many did you catch, Marshall?
I caught 2. I landed 2 and lost 1.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And you caught the biggest one out of the whole day. And you did the math on what or you found the conversion.
I found a conversion chart on it for the length, and it was kind of like, you know, if you do a halibut up here, they have a length chart for each type of shark, and that one was supposed to be just under 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And, wow.
And I think it's 87 centimeters, which I don't know what that would be in feet, but 6 foot, I want to say a 6 foot ragged tooth.
Yeah. It was big. And you know, it was cool because, I mean, they said it was a very unique day for being out there, but I mean, we started catching sharks
right away,
immediately. You know, they baited up 2 hooks, took those super long poles out there past the reef, and I was kind of explaining that in the last episode about, you know, kind of wading way out there shoulder deep in the ocean and just launching these things out there past the reef. And
it had to have been more than 87 centimeters. That's only like
187.
I think it was 187.
187.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 187.
I'm gonna say that
yeah, I think it was 108. Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense.
There we go.
But so yeah, we I think all of us, except for maybe, I don't know, I think we all caught at least 2 sharks.
Yeah, everybody caught 2.
Yeah,
everybody lost some.
Yeah, and everybody lost some. I mean, and it was always the ones that were fighting the hardest, and then all of a sudden, like, the line would snap, or you'd give it too much slack, and they'd spit it out or something. But there was one, my goodness, it took 3 of us to get it landed. And we found out the reason why, but so Steve started on this shark, and it was just the fight of a lifetime. I mean, this thing was not coming in at all. He ended up having to pass it off to Sean, who fought it for a good long while.
Yeah.
And then he ended up passing it. I think he gave it back to Steve for a little while, and they were passing it back and forth. And I happened to have one of the belts on for reeling as well. So I ran over there, and then they passed it to me. And we fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. And that's with yours too. I mean, I took a video of you fighting your big one, Marshall. And I mean, I didn't even start it until late in the fight, and that video was still 7 minutes long. You know,
I was done. If it had been 1 more minute, I was going to have to pass it off. My arms were smoked.
Right. But we finally get this thing to shore, and it was a big shark, don't get me wrong. But what happened was the way that the hook had lodged in it, it was like it may have taken it at one point, but tried to spit it out.
Oh.
And then it got relodged in the side of it.
Oh, boy.
And so you weren't dragging this shark straight in by its face.
Yeah.
It was facing away from you, trying to swim against the hook. And that's what was making it fight so hard.
Oh, boy.
And I mean, it took 3 of us over 30 minutes to get this thing landed.
Wow.
And finally did. And it was, after that, I don't even need to catch anymore, to be honest with you. I was so done.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to have lunch. I just want to relax the rest of the day.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. I think I caught one towards the end of the day that was the itty bitty little thing. That little 2-footer I was telling you about last time. Yeah. It was like a pajama shark or something, whatever they called it. But it was cool. But we waited for a while. The currents kind of shifted and the winds shifted and things kind of slowed down towards the afternoon. So we ended up having a nice barbecue there at the beach and hanging out. Which, man, I just don't know how many times I can say it, but the food over there. It's just so good. They barbecue everything, you know, and it's like they have these big pork strips, which is just like bacon on steroids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those things were awesome.
Yeah, and they cook them over the fire, and they're nice, crispy. I mean, it literally tastes like bacon, but it's just 3 times the size of a strip of bacon.
Wow.
They have these sausage, like brats, but they're like a dried meat. Sausage, and they cook those over the fire and everything. Oh man, it was so good. And the seasonings that they use over there is just, that was kind of the thing is like the seasonings that they use and the just everything they use for cooking is so different than what you get here in the States.
More flavorful.
Yeah, even like when you go to the convenience stores, we'd stop whenever we were out driving through town, stop, grab some chips or a couple drinks. But like all the sports drinks were different flavors, all the chips were different flavors, all the crackers were different flavors, anything you could get.
Yep.
It was just these interesting, cool little offshoot flavors. That was just really, really, everything was amazing.
That's something that I always make a remark about to my wife is American food by nature is just bland.
Yeah, it really is.
Compared to food from overseas, it's just not the same.
Well, and then, the ingredients are so different too, I mean, I was commenting earlier how the Coca-Cola that we'd get would only have 4 ingredients in it. It was like carbonated water, caramel, cane sugar, and, like some preservative of some sort, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like no high fructose corn syrup, no nothing. I mean, it was just, you read it, the ingredients list on the back of any of these boxes was a quarter the size it is here in the States. It's like, and everything just tasted so much cleaner. I don't know. And it was really amazing. But so that day out at the beach, I mean, it was great being out there in the sun. I can't even remember the last time I was on a sunny beach by the ocean. Because the beaches here in Alaska, they're not the same.
Even if the sun's shining, you're not running out into that water to go swimming.
You're not.
And the rocks, and it's more gravel than sand. And there's some sand in Alaska, but it's like the black sand, and it is cool in its own way, but it's just not that.
My experience in the beach in Alaska, it smells like fish.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
because people are fishing.
Yep. I honestly think I was probably 10 or 12 the last time I was on a beach. Like a warm, sunny beach.
Probably the same for me.
Yeah.
Like in Florida or something.
Right, yeah. Vacation. That's where I think it was. It was a family vacation down in Florida. Either Florida or New Jersey.
May have seen each other. My goodness.
Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, no, the sun though, man, oh man. I know you got crazy sunburns, Marshall.
Yeah.
I mean, you got it worse than anybody.
I would say if you're coming from anywhere north and you're going to go down there to the beach, you need to either stay covered up or apply sunscreen every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And make sure you don't wash it off wading through the water or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, your feet looked.
Believe it, and it was my feet.
Yeah.
Not my
everything
neck.
else. Not his shoulders, not his arms.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, my hands, I had one of those sun shirts on, those long sleeve like fishing shirts.
Yep.
50 SPF, I think is what it was, protection wise. And that thing worked phenomenal. My arms weren't burnt at all. And actually, the first day I didn't wear it, and I sunburnt my arms really bad.
Yeah.
But that shirt worked so good that while I was wearing it out in the sunburns beneath it were healing. And so by the third day, I was fine.
Yeah, that's really good.
But my hands, we were out there for, I think, 3 hours at this point, and Ricky, the PH, came up, and he's like, "Are your hands okay?" And I looked down, and they were, I mean, lobster red.
And swollen.
Swollen, like huge. And I hadn't even noticed it really until he pointed it out, but I looked down, and like I kept having to loosen my watch up. Because like my whole arm was just starting to swell, and to this day I don't know why. Like I'd never had that happen before, and I grew up in a place that gets pretty hot in the summer. But just being up here for as long as I have, I guess. But yeah, and it wasn't even, they didn't get burnt either, was the weird thing, because I was applying sunscreen like every 20 minutes. Like he was saying.
Well, you can get sun poisoning.
Yeah, is that a thing?
Oh yeah,
really?
It's absolutely a thing.
No kidding.
I think I was on that. I think that's what I got.
Yeah, no kidding. For sure.
Because sometimes, and not everybody gets it, but you can get a super bad sunburn, and it'll blister a little bit afterwards. Probably a day or so afterwards.
Yeah.
But then you'll start to feel nauseous, and it's actually a sun poisoning, is what they call it. Yeah.
Too much vitamin D or something?
Too much of something, and you just feel sick for a day or two.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I've gotten sun poisoning up here before.
Have you really?
Yeah. I was guiding a brown bear hunt in June one time, and the sun came out for a couple of days straight, and I made the mistake of sitting out in the picnic chair with my shirt off, and I fell asleep. And the tops of my shoulders blistered so bad I couldn't even hardly carry a backpack, which is not real great for being a guide.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
But yeah, that was not fun.
Does that tend more for people who burn easy?
Oh yeah.
The sun poisoning part does?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. The worse the burn is, the more likely you are to get it if you're susceptible to it.
And I grew up in Alaska, but I've never burned.
Really?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the sun for hours.
I don't hardly get sunburn anymore, except for that time, and it was because it was it was skin that normally is not uncovered in the sun.
Right.
Usually, I'm wearing a shirt of some sort.
If I did that,
Similar
I might be okay.
Feet, I guess.
If I wear a short sleeve shirt and I don't wear a hat, my arms, my hands, my face, my neck, that doesn't really burn. But
weird.
That's just I've kind of scorched that part, I guess.
Maybe.
Well,
and that's really my hands were the only things I really had trouble with. I kept my forearms covered with that fishing shirt for most days. Honestly, I would just kind of wash it myself at the end of the day because I only brought the one. Because in my head, I was like, well, I'll bring this for the fishing day.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about the fact that the sun's out all the rest of the days too. And so, that first day when I burnt my forearms real bad, I started wearing that fishing shirt underneath my regular shirt.
Quick side note. This thing that I'm wearing here right now, this is made by Go Hunt, and this is actually SPF.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I bought it.
I'm going to order so many more of those shirts. That thing was amazing. And it kept me cool too in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So word of the wise, if you're going over there, like you said, if you're from a northern climate,
I
mean, those fishing shirts are like that. That Go Hunt shirt there.
Yeah. And this is the old sponge duck hunter pattern. So it looks like something Rhett Daniels would wear.
Right.
But yeah, those shirts are lifesavers, man. Yeah. I mean, next time I go, I'm bringing at least 3 of them.
So, on the your hands with what happened, one thing that might have been an issue was you're not next to the water.
Yeah.
And the water reflects those alpha rays.
Right. Well, and the other thing that they said too is because of the way that the weather was that day, because it was windy and there was a really cold current currently going through. Yeah, that's what they said. You don't feel the heat. Yeah. So you're burning without actually feeling the burn.
Happens to a lot of people up here, especially on the water.
One of the worst sunburns I ever got as a kid in Fiji was we were out camping, and I put on shorts. And I didn't wear shorts a lot as a kid. I just wore like lightweight, just nylon pants because those breathe better than blue jeans.
Yeah.
But I wore shorts, and it was overcast, and it was 70, 80 degrees, whatever it was. And we were outside shooting bows and goofing off at the camp spot. But the backs of my calves got burned so bad in an overcast day. The front of my legs didn't hardly burn, but my calves did. And I remember getting home, and a couple days after that, I mean, I had blisters 6 inches long and 4 inches wide on my calves. Just one big solid blister on each calf.
Wow.
And then when they popped and that red underneath, it was so bad. I would sit, well, my parents had one recliner in our house growing up, and I'd sit in that recliner with my feet up. So the blood wasn't going hard up to my legs, but then I would stand up.
That hurt so bad, didn't it?
And the blood would hit hit that calf. And I just wanted to collapse.
Yeah.
And it just throbs.
Yeah. It just pulsates. It hurts so bad.
Well, and that's what was interesting about what you were saying, Marshall, is that when you were wearing your shoes, for the day.
Yeah.
And you were actually had your boots on, it was okay.
Yeah.
But it was when you took your boots off and it kind of had that ability.
It relieves that compression of the sock.
Yeah.
So this is the very next day, and I'm in the lodge, and I got my foot up on a pillow, and that's just the start of it.
Oh my!
My whole foot is a blister, and it's so swollen. From my knee all the way down to my foot, it's all the same size.
Man,
like
a big old Oompa Loompa foot.
Every one of us felt so bad.
And I would put my boot on. It hurt so bad to get my boot on, but once I got it on,
that compression,
it was good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know your pain, Marshall.
Well, and that was the deciding. The hard part deciding on for the flight home, because you want to wear comfy shoes.
Right.
Like I wore my Crocs, flying there and back, but like he had to wear his boots because otherwise you could hardly walk.
Too painful.
That was a horrible trip back.
Until you've had that happen, you can't appreciate the pain that when you stand up, just the shock and I just want to sit back down.
I still have my left foot still has sores on it right now.
Really?
It's still healing.
Yeah.
It's been 3 weeks?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, that's a bad deal.
Well, and you were saying, what is it? It can take 6 months to fully go away or something. You looked up
for
that
the
one
scars.
day.
For the
scars. Okay. Yeah.
So funny story about that. Out fishing when I was a kid, I would wear Keen sandals, and they covered your foot for the most part. That they had a toe over it, so you wouldn't kick up against coral and sharp stuff in the water.
Mm-hmm.
But they had the little slots in them, and so my feet would get slotted sunburns on my feet.
No.
When we moved back to the States as a teenager, I had dark marks on my feet for over a year from wearing sandals in Fiji. Over a year.
Really?
Yeah. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
I got to the point where I thought they would never go away.
Yeah.
You
just have striped feet.
You might have dark spots on your feet.
You go into the shoe store
for a while.
I need sandals with a very specific.
Right. I need these to match.
Yeah.
I actually still own that same pair of sandals. I still wear them up here fishing in the summertime.
Well, and the thing that amazed me, for my skin at least, is how quickly my tan went away.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at my hands now, it's like they're
right
back to being Alaska pale. So it's like
pasty white.
I was kind of thinking in my head, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get a winter tan and come back.
It seems to be the case for people who burn easily.
Yeah. It doesn't last.
I don't know what all or whatever other people in my family know, but there is some Native American blood flowing through my veins. Very low percentage, more than Elizabeth Warren's.
Yes.
I don't remember what it was, what the percentage was, who it was, what the tribe or anything, but there is a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
well, and I've talked to a lot of people who are, not very much Native American, maybe 6% and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's just enough to kind of
right. Well, there's two things.
Tilt that balance.
It's the how well you get a tan or not burn.
Right.
And it's the amount of hair you grow on your body. Just in general, like on your face. I don't have sideburns yet, right? At all. Right. And that's not my choice, right?
If you had your way, you'd have the big old mutton chops.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got a lot of hair on your head, Mariah.
I do. I do have a lot of hair on my head. That's true. That's true. But, hey, the Native Americans usually had long hair, right?
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
Although it's curly, so
yeah, that is an interesting part. I don't
know. Anyway. Moving on.
But
I was trying to skirt the edge of too far, and I think I went too far.
So funnily, I don't know if funnily is a word, but
funnily enough,
I actually had just done one of those
23andMe
DNA things. I did the Ancestry.com one. My wife got it for me for my birthday, and so I'd sent that in before we left.
And who are you related to?
I'm pert near 50% Swedish/Danish.
Really?
See that?
I can see that.
I'm German. I think it was 30% German, 20-something% Hungarian, and then like 4% Baltic.
So your ancestors and my ancestors were just duking it out because I have a
very European,
very northern.
Very Nordic.
There is no tanning ability in my ancestry at all.
Mid 1800s, my family on my dad's side moved to North America from Germany.
Yeah,
and then on my mom's side, I've got some Hispanic background.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
German and Hispanic, prevalent, and then some Italian as well.
Yeah,
from my grandma's side.
Well, and my dad's side of the family's been on this side of the ocean since Plymouth. I actually have an ancestor that was like a constable at Plymouth Rock.
Constable Payne.
Yeah. And then they moved up into that kind of the Ohio region of the country and stayed there. There's actually a town, little tidbit if you're in Ohio, Paynesville, Ohio. Mm-hmm. That's my family. That Edward Payne is my ancestor. The guy that has the statue downtown.
No kidding.
That's my lineage of Paynes.
Wow.
But my mom was born in Germany and then immigrated into the U.S. with her mom. And so that's kind of where we get like kind of that both sides, I think. And it's pretty neat. But yeah, no tanning ability whatsoever. So when I turn super red like that, that's why.
Yeah. My grandmother was Norwegian, almost fully Norwegian, I think, blooded. And then she grew up in Alaska. But
pretty similar.
Yeah, but there's actually, I don't remember what the name is, but there's actually a city in Norway named after her family.
Nice. Very nice.
She went over and visited and met some of her distant relatives at one point. Yeah. So I have that flowing through my veins too. I got a good mutt mix.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know of any family I have up in like the Swedish area or anything like that. Maybe I'll find something through this app. Who knows? But I do know, I think we still have several relatives over in Germany.
But I would like to say that even though we all just talked about our ancestry and lineage, we're all Americans.
Oh, full-blooded
100%.
Full-blooded American. Yeah.
I identify as an American.
I simply look at the genealogy to figure out how well I tan or don't. So that's it. That's as far as that interest goes.
How bad will I burn? Just Google that.
Exactly. No, I am full red-blooded, free-born American. So.
That's right.
But no. So the back to the shark fishing though. It was interesting. I don't know. Do you remember? Did they say if you're actually allowed to keep sharks? Because we did all catch and release.
We could. They said we could have kept one.
We could have kept them. Yeah. Okay. Because we didn't get to keep any of the sharks, but I mean, you take your pictures with it and everything like that. But,
sure.
It was pretty interesting to see that.
You didn't hook into any great whites though.
No great whites.
There's a lot of great whites down there.
What they call those big ones we caught? Was it snaggle?
Ragged tooth.
Ragged tooth. That's what it is. Ragged tooth.
Yep.
And there's some gnarly looking sharks.
Oh, I saw a picture. Yeah, they look nasty.
And if you notice, I don't know if y'all seen any of the pictures that James took, but if you notice that there's nobody swimming.
Yeah.
No. If we caught, what do they say, upwards of 18 or 19 sharks.
Yeah.
And before lunch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
I didn't even want to be the one that went out there and threw the hook in the water.
No.
You wouldn't have caught me out there.
No, and that's there were people out there. I mean, in the earlier part of the day, we were the only ones on the beach, which I thought was really cool. Actually, I was even commenting. I'm like, man, this is such a beautiful beach, and there's nobody. There's like two other groups out there, locals. Not even. There was one older couple walking up and down the beach, and then like another group of fishermen. But it was cool in the afternoon. You could tell when school got out because all the kids started coming out and running on the beach and playing and everything like that. But even then, they were on the beach and they might wade out a little ways, but like nobody was swimming. Yeah. And it's because they do have great whites there.
Oh yeah.
But
they've got a ton of them.
Apparently the way the water was at that point with the currents and everything, they could kind of predict there weren't going to be any right there at that point. So the ragged tooth were just what we were getting the most of.
Yeah.
There was another kind that they said was in the water that was apparently bigger and fought even harder, but we didn't end up catching any of them. So I forget what those ones were. So I grew up as far away from the ocean as you could possibly get. So
I want snakes and sharks. I want nothing to do with them.
Yeah, me either.
Not a chance.
Snakes, I don't like want anything to do with them, but they don't really freak me out that bad. But sharks, I don't mess with sharks.
I don't know if anybody here has listened to anything by Dan Carlin, Hardcore History, Common Sense. He's got several podcasts, of which I am a pretty big fan. But he talks about one thing. He says, he does a lot of stuff with history, hardcore history. Highly recommend it. Appreciate it, Dan. If you give us a shout out back. Anyhow, he'll talk about how he likes to think about the extremes of human experience. Like, and where, if he had a time machine, where would he go to experience that, in battles and stuff. But in thinking about that way, I've realized I really like the idea of even just the extremes of the human experience available to me today. And because of that, something like, I got no problem with, I mean, you think about it, you like the land shark, right? The bears.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's my terrain.
Yeah, but then you're in your element. Yeah.
That's true.
It's
That's true. That's true. But, there's a lot of people very experienced around sharks who'll swim with them all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't hear them coming.
More power to them.
That's true. Mm-hmm. But I would do it. I would do it just to do it.
You can't just walk away from a shark.
Right.
No, you swim away. Not as fast, but
good luck.
You can't yell at it and make it go away.
Yeah.
But it's just no, and I understand that, but that's why it's an extreme of the human experience.
Well, and
extremely not something I'm going to do.
But and some people too. I mean, when they get comfortable with sharks, they'll tell you like, oh, if one's coming at you, you just put your hand on its nose or something like that, and it calms it down, or poke it in the eyes, and it'll go away. And it's like
Timothy Treadwell would have told you to do the same thing with a brown bear, and look how that turned out.
You've heard the Ranella crew talk about diving with sharks and stuff when they're fishing. Spearfishing, and when sharks come by, just if you treat them right, you can tell when they're going to be aggressive. You can tell when there might be an issue and how to treat them back.
Yeah.
And and really, I agree. It's not the same elements as on land, but just like anything, you can learn how to coexist.
I agree.
I'm sure you can.
But just like 9 times out of 10, I can read a brown bear's body language and push them away if I don't want them around.
Yeah.
That works most of the time.
But
there are still bears that determine that, no, I'm going to come in here and eat your lunch. And so you have to shoot it.
Yep.
With a shark, if a shark decides to do that, you are in trouble. So, and you have a spear gun that's good for one shot.
True.
Yeah.
There's not a chance.
Yep. Well, and
not
if you have
chance.
even that, we were having a conversation about surfing over there.
Yeah.
Because Ricky's a surfer.
Yep.
And more power to him, but like, no way, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going out there. Because, I equate it to like, okay, there's sharks in the water.
Yeah.
You know that surfboard looks like what they hunt.
Yeah.
From the bottom underneath the water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like skateboarding through what has an area that has bears with no gun or anything. You're just skateboarding through just because, it's more fun to skateboard here. Like, no. I'm at least gonna have bear
I
spray
wouldn't
with
go
me.
camping in a. Well, there's a spot I'm thinking of that I know that there's brown bears that come there to rut.
Mm-hmm.
There's always boars chasing sows in this one spot.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't catch me camping there without a gun,
Right.
just for fun.
Well, and that's any of us.
I'm not going to put myself
We'll
there.
still go there, but we're going to make sure we're protected at least.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
At least because we're in our element, we're going to
But
fight back.
it's what degree of risk are you willing to
Not that far.
what degree of risk are you willing to take on outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason to take that on.
And
on land
for me, and I
as
don't
much
know,
as I need to.
And I don't know why this is, but if I have the opportunity to go skydiving, I'm going to do it without a second thought.
Yeah.
If I have an opportunity to go swimming with sharks and I'm with a crew of people that say, yes, we do this all the time, we have people come, I'm not going to have an issue doing it. If I'm with those guys and they say, do you want to walk this out to the reef?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, 100%. I'm watching you do it. I'll do it.
I don't know, man.
I don't know, because when me and Steve walked out, right? Me and Steve walked out, and he goes, something just hit my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's that shark went by and went, yep, I don't want him.
He's just licking his chops. It's just, no, it tastes like sunscreen.
Well, you remember what it was when we were growing up out trying to ride and find trails. It was always me saying, let's see what's around the next bend. What's over the next hill? And Dalton was always, we've gone far enough. We've gone far. We got to get back before dark.
Because if we get stuck, then we're in trouble.
Right.
Yeah, and
there is a point to where the voice of reason is a good thing.
Maybe my risk assessor is a little bit messed up, but if I can experience something extreme, I want to do it.
Well, then you go dive with sharks, then, good buddy.
No, one day.
You wear a GoPro. Wear a GoPro. I'll swim vicariously through you.
That's a weird statement.
Get you some.
What was
like those
the
VR goggles.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. I'll just I'll get the experience without having to worry about it. So
I wouldn't even do VR with sharks. I'm not even kidding. It just freaks me
snakes?
out. No chance.
Really?
No way.
So we were talking about this artificial intelligence image generator thing.
Satan manifested himself
Sharks and
to
snakes?
mankind through a serpent. It is directly in our DNA that snakes are of the devil.
So
I hate snakes.
so if I got a picture,
Mama said.
If I could combine two animals that would be your worst fears, it would be a snake and a shark.
Yep.
Ooh.
Oh, AI, that one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Oh yeah.
It's a dangerous thing for the chat GPTs.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yuck.
But yeah, so no, to pull this back into the Africa thing. So no, it was a great day out there. I have never fought a fish that hard before.
Yeah, I'm sure that was fun.
Even like pulling halibut up off the bottom of and as hard as they can be, pulling up, all kinds of fish from around Alaska. It's like, no, there's nothing that compares to a shark. And I've heard you can actually fish for sharks here in Alaska. Salmon sharks. Yeah. So I might try that.
There's guys catching
now
them.
that I've got a taste for it.
They're big.
Like, they're 300 plus pounds. I think.
Yeah, they're huge.
Average, yeah.
I see them quite a bit guiding.
Yeah,
they're big animals.
Yeah, so I might look into that, but no, it was a blast.
Sorry, I said animals. Fish.
Kind of animals.
I mean,
they're yeah.
They'll tear you apart like an animal.
Right, exactly. And then
anyway,
so after that day, though, I mean, all of us went back to the the lodge, and we were just beat. Just being out in the sun all day and everything like that. It was a great trip.
You were icing your hands.
Actually, I think most of us all slept on the way back to the lodge. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because for that last like 3 hours we were out there, it really dried up on the fishing. It was just after lunch, it just never was quite the same. Something shifted with the wind and the way the seaweed was and everything like that, and it just wasn't good shark fishing anymore. But that morning, man, we were killing. We were pulling them in left and right. It was every 20 minutes somebody was pulling a shark in.
Are you ready for this?
What's up?
Shark bait. Boo ha ha. That just came to mind for some reason. What in the world?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yuck. Mariah just AI'd a shark and snake combined.
Flying. I had the flying part too. There.
Flying.
Yeah. That makes it even better.
Because that's more comforting. These things could fly? Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
So I think after that was about the midway point of the trip, right? I think that was actually exactly middle day because we were leaving out that next Tuesday. I think that was Friday. So the next day, we actually didn't go hunting the next day. Sean and his wife, and then myself and my wife went out, and we went to the Addo Elephant Park, which was again like an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive. I mean, that's a cool thing. I mean, South Africa is a huge place. Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, I think Alaska is a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But there's actually road systems to most places in South Africa. So
yeah,
it's not swamp.
Yeah, you can access a lot more of it. And so there's just every direction you go, it's like, 2 hours this way. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Right.
But so we went there, and that was a really fun day. And this is, again, this whole last half of the week that we were there was just hot. I mean, it had to have been 110 degrees out that day that we were out there. It kept
getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
Yeah. And you guys were out hunting that day.
Yeah, that was the day that it was, Steve's turn to shoot. And
that's when he got a zebra, isn't it?
No, that's when he got his baboon.
Oh, his baboon. That's right.
So they took us out, it looked like flat terrain, and we drove up to this one fence, and we climbed through. They had one part of the fence where we could get through that didn't have the barbed wire on it. They clipped all those off, and we climbed under, and we walked out to this, just right through the trees, and then there was a cliff. It was pretty cool. And on the other side, baboons were all it's like about 300 yards away. And so, they were all carrying on, making all these noises, and one big one jumped up on this tree. And so Steve got on the sticks, and right as he pulled the trigger, it had just jumped down. So the sound of the rifle made them all run away.
Yeah.
And so we're like, crap. So we're just all standing there. We're still spotting around. There was a dam below us. And so we're just looking for any other opportunities. And then I guess this one drew the short straw, and they made him climb to the top of the tree
to look around
to see if we were still here. And, I know I got to keep it clean, so I won't say the whole word, but it sounded like that the baboon was saying, F you, it's just up there at the top of the tree.
Weird.
Yelling at you.
Yeah, yelling at us, still warning the other ones that were there.
Yeah.
And, of course, they ranged it, and it was like 345 yards.
Yeah.
Across the canyon on the very top of a tree. It was pretty cool. It was a good shot.
300 Win Mag.
Yep, 300 Win Mag. Steve puts him up on the stick. And this is his second shot for redemption. And bam! And it dropped. Good shot,
Nice.
Anyway, so the trackers went over there. They tracked down where it was at and pulled it out. And, we did the whole picture things. And it's crazy how human-like they are.
Yeah.
They had 5 fingers, fingerprints, all. It was kind of eerie, but yeah.
Well, and so that wasn't even the big one then, huh?
No. He missed the big one.
That was still a pretty good size.
Yeah.
Like, it was bigger than I thought they'd be, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But his was, they said, it's about 3/4 aged. But the one that jumped out of the tree right as he was pulling the trigger, that was a big one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was a pretty cool day, seeing that whole experience. And, we took the pictures, put it back in the truck, and then we kind of like drove around. And I cannot remember if that's the day that I got my trophy warthog or not, or I really can't remember.
I know you and Steve both got trophy warthogs pretty close back to back, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice warthogs.
Yeah.
Too.
So,
Goodness.
again, that's, you get culls. Culls are, warthogs, impalas, jackals, baboons, whatever, but if a warthog's tusks are so big, it's considered a trophy. And I seen that one and I just had to take it. It's not expensive at all. So, I went ahead and, got me a trophy warthog. I'm almost positive it was that day. But then we came back and telling our stories. But
yeah, because you guys were out there the whole day, and we were out. I mean, we got back pretty late from that elephant park, because it was, for anybody in Alaska listening, it was kind of like their version of Denali Park. There's just a big long road, and you're going through, and there was elephants and zebras everywhere, and red hartebeest and ostriches.
Those are another goofy looking animals.
Yeah, they're kind of weird looking. Yeah,
I've always thought they were pretty ugly.
Yeah,
really?
They're not the best looking.
I thought they were I thought they were just really cool.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely really neat, but I've always thought them and the blessed bucks were just kind of, not a real pretty animal.
I will say I do want to go hunt a red hartebeest.
Yeah.
As part of the wildebeest slam, because they're considered in that. So, but no, Addo was really cool. That's what we were doing while you guys were hunting, and we saw a ton of animals. Elephants are way bigger in person than they look on TV. I've only ever seen them at one zoo ever in person. So, and it was like from an elevated platform, so you couldn't really get a good idea of how big they were. But when you're on ground level with them and you're just looking up, you're like,
I've seen him at zoos a few different times. And then when I was down the lower 48 in January, I went into this guy's trophy room.
Oh, yeah.
It was more like a trophy house that was built around the trophy room.
Nice.
And he had a life-size elephant in there.
Oh, wow.
Body mount?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'll show you a picture later.
Good night.
Also a giraffe. So, yeah.
He got money.
Life-size
They
giraffe?
are monstrous.
Money.
Oh, yeah. Full life-size giraffe.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there was more taxidermy in there than there is in Cabela's in Anchorage. It seemed like. I mean, it was just packed into a smaller area than Cabela's. But
it can be an obsession, though.
It can be. Yeah,
absolutely is. Absolutely is. Yeah, he's got his trophy room in the Trophy Room magazine. Like that's that's a whole thing.
You know what?
Duh.
Oh, I mean, I figured, but you hadn't mentioned
What
it.
surprised me about the elephants over there, though, was the tusks weren't nearly as big as I expected.
Oh, really?
They were a lot smaller. They kind of just came forward, spiking out forward.
Yeah.
There was no like big curls or anything like you would expect. Kind of like you see, like I guess in other parts of Africa, and I guess in that region, those genetics just kind of got shot out, and so that they're still good size. But yeah, poaching was a big thing there for a long time. See, nothing that size, nothing even close to that size over there. Well, I guess there were a few older ones that may have been approaching that size, but most of them were not anything close to that.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just kind of genetic, same thing. You'll rarely find a 60-inch bull moose around Fairbanks. It's just kind of been shot out, so.
Yep.
Happens, but.
Yeah. But that was a fun day. We got to, and that was one thing I liked about this trip, was being able to kind of go into town a little bit, going into different places and seeing more of the culture and the different stores. We stopped at one place for dinner, and it was kind of a testament to the difference in currency. It's like we had 4 people eating dinner together, and it was 1,000 rand was what the meal cost, and that was for us to have appetizers and full meals and drinks and all that. That equated to like $50 or something like that.
Where did the name rand come from?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. Never asked that question, actually. But that's just what they call it over there. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't know if they break it down any farther than that. I always just saw rand. Almost everything was like even numbers.
Really?
It was like exactly 36 rand. It was exactly this money. It was exactly this. And you never really saw like how we have dollars and cents.
I
didn't really see many things that were broken up that way.
Was there ever a price that was like percentage, not percentage, but like decimal?
No, not really. Not that I saw.
So
like even like a Monster Energy drink over there was 36 rand, but it was like that even. So
I think when I was in Europe, I saw stuff that was a lot of their pricing was instead of, like they have coins and stuff. But I mean, there's so many different coins. It seemed like sometimes too. Like these 3 different coins are actually all worth the same amount of money. Right. But their currency, like their prices would be marked out in. Now they weren't. What was it like? The 1,000 rand you said was like $50,
something
US.
like that. Yeah.
So 100 rand would be like $5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah.
So that's a lot higher difference than there was in Ukraine. But at least from when I was there. But but stuff would be marked in like one. If it was just a few bucks, or I can't remember what the money was called over there. But it would just be it'd be decimal out.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't remember anything like that there, but the cool thing with the food over there and like what we got for that price was I think we had like some fried shrimp and some calamari and stuff like that, and then we ordered burgers, and I ordered one called the Triple Bypass. It met up with the name. It was a double patty with ham, with bacon, with like an egg and cheese sauce and all this other stuff. I mean, the thing looked like one of those ones you see on Scooby Doo. It was just I couldn't even. Like you couldn't squish it down enough to take a bite out of the whole thing. You had to like bite the top, then bite the bottom. Because I was thinking it was going to be a double patty, kind of like we have here, double quarter patty, No. This was 2 half-pound patties.
Nice.
Huge amount of food. And I did finish it.
There's something, food factory here in local has something like that.
Do they really?
Yes. Yeah, they got a 1 pound burger. I think Ivory Jacks does too.
Do they?
Yeah, I think they do. What do they call that? The Big Bubba or something? But yeah, and it was massive, and that was the coolest part is like the food. I can't say it enough. The food over there was amazing.
Did you finish the burger?
Oh, I did.
Sitting?
Yeah,
nice.
Finished it in one sitting with the fries or chips as they call them over there. But and then just it's so much food, and again the seasonings that they use are so different and everything. I mean, if you're heading over that direction, I mean, definitely look forward to the food. It's not something you have to worry about at all, whether it's home cooked or not. All the restaurants we went to,
at least in
great.
South Africa.
At least in South Africa,
yeah.
The areas that we were at,
yeah. In South Africa, they had malls, they had restaurants, normal, and you don't even have to get the currency if you don't want to. You could use your credit card.
Yeah,
really?
Most banks will do the automatic, the automatic exchange rate, and like we had to pay a fee for ours, so every time we would swipe it was like a percentage fee.
Yeah,
but it always ended up being a couple of cents. It was like 3 cents here.
I believe it was the same way in Europe. You could just use your card.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then you just had to make sure you hit the right selection to not pay a huge or something like that. Like
right.
Do you want to pay it because you could actually then pay it in U.S. dollars or in the local currency?
Some of the machines had that too. Yeah,
I
you
kept
could
picking
choose.
U.S.
Yeah, because I think if you choose that, you don't have to pay the fee to do that.
Yeah, it can depend on the store. I mean, it's a whole.
But it was really cool. I mean, it was the country is so spread out. There's so much space and land that's just wide open between each town. But like they all, once you're in town and you go into these stores, like, I mean, there'd be this random, gas station in the middle of nowhere. And you walk in and it just looks like a normal gas station you see, here in Alaska. You know how, for us, if you go down to certain gas stations in certain towns in Alaska that are pretty remote, you can tell, it's kind of like an old log building. It's kind of like, it looks very rustic.
They set it
looks
up
very
in more of like a traditional, like the Three Bears places, right? They kind of do more traditional color scheme. Like they don't go with all the vibrant stuff.
Right. It looks more old timey. Like these, even if it was a gas station in the middle of nowhere, it looked very modern. looked very like well kept, you know, and it was very like the same thing. They had all sorts of selections, different flavors of everything, and it was really.
Was there any like energy drink brands that you didn't recognize?
You know, I didn't drink any while I was over there. They did have Monsters and they did have Red Bull.
Nice. They had Gatorade, Powerade.
Yeah, they had a lot of the normal stuff we have here. I got one drink one day. It was called like Energade or Energade, whatever.
Okay.
It was like Energy, but Energade, however you would pronounce it. But that was like their local version of a sports drink, and it was like a cherry limeade, I think was the one I got. It was really good.
The only reason I ask is the area that I was in Europe. But one thing I thought it was just really crazy. Like you talked about all the chips with stuff with different flavors. They had that, but in this particular brand of energy drink.
Oh, really?
It was like every flavor, like 50 different flavors in a freezer and a cooler in a gas station of the energy drink was called Hell. It had a picture of a devil on it. Like they were all really good.
Really?
I'm on a
I got one
trip.
of each.
Yeah. No, I only had a few because I didn't know what was in them. You know,
right?
You can't read the ingredients, and you try to use a translator app, and it can't read them. So
right. No, but the chips, it was funny because there was like Brazilian spicy salsa or something like that, or like Caribbean sea salt with, you know, these different things, and all of them were super good. And then there was one that was American smoky barbecue, and so I got it just to try it out, and it was better than the barbecue chips we have over here. It was like, how did you outdo us at American barbecue chips?
Right.
Like,
well, they didn't use all of our junky ingredients,
right? But no, it was really cool. And so. Let's see. We had 2 more days of hunting after that. Yep. We went back to the ranch. Madeline got her trophy Impala. Really, fortunately, actually, hers. I think hers was a little bit bigger than mine. As far as that, it seemed like it was an older one.
Mm-hmm.
But the coolest part is we had 2 different genetics. So traditional knowledge, I guess, would teach you that a mature Impala is going to get wide at the base pretty immediately and then go straight up, perfectly parallel to each other. But kind of like how moose don't always do what you expect them to do with their racks, the way that they're shaped and things like that, Impala are the same way. Some, and this is what hers did, went perfectly parallel up all on the sides, and then right at the tip started curling back in. And it looks really cool. We actually did a shoulder mount on hers because it's such a pretty animal. She did a real good job shooting that one. It was facing dead on, so she did a sternum shot on it, and just dropped it in its tracks immediately. I mean that 270 just whacked it.
Yeah, and
so she drops that thing, and I was just super impressed. It had like some cracks on the bases and everything. Like you could tell it was a fighter, you know.
Yeah.
That one was really nice. But the other thing, and this is one thing I'm going to look for when I go back. I'm gonna do another trophy Impala because they also have a flared version where they don't come up perfectly parallel. They actually kind of flare out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so between hers and mine, now mine was perfectly parallel. Hers kind of curled in at the tips. And if I can get one that's flared out, then we'll have all 3 versions. And then I've also shot some spikers, and she shot a U, so we'll kind of have like, you know, the whole spectrum of Impalas. I think that'll be pretty cool.
Then you got to shoot a black one.
Yes.
Yeah, once I get in that tax bracket. But they're so cool, man.
What would one of those run?
I think it was 1,600.
1,600.
Yeah,
well, that's not terrible.
No,
it's not awful, but you can get a kudu for less.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kudu was 1,400.
Yeah.
Wow.
But once you get in these variants, I mean, and there's different color variants of springbuck.
1,300.
1,300. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and then I think waterbuck was 1,400.
Yep.
There were several things kind of in that dancing around that $1,000 to $1,500 range.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm going to be targeting next time is some of those bigger animals. But there is a lot of color variants when you get into like Impalas and springbucks and whatnot. There's black springbucks, there's white springbucks, there's white Impala.
It's not springbucks, it's springbuck. You don't add an S at the end of it.
You're adding S's on the ends of words that don't need S's.
And that's what I appreciate about you.
Sushis and sashimis.
My wife says she really likes how much I always correct and make sure I'm right.
Oh, your wife likes that?
Oh, she loves it. Yeah.
If only you could translate that into the way you write. Sorry.
No, but on all those animals that they have over there, when you first get there, they give you, you have your package that you buy into, which I think is great because If you've never been, you get the introduction to Africa, and it's at a really reasonable price. And then they give you a list of animals that are in their area that they can get you on. And so when you're out, and it's always in, like, it doesn't matter what country you're from, they'll have it broken down into your currency.
Right.
So when you first show up, and they hand you this package, and you're sitting in a room the next day or that night before you go out for your first hunt, you can look at that list and decide, okay, I might want these animals. And then, so when you're out there looking around, which is another thing I think you should do, if you've never just sat on a hillside and spotted animals, you need to practice that before you go.
Yeah.
And then, so you can decide that way when you see the animal and the professional hunter is trying to tell you, that's a trophy animal, you don't have to sit there and say, how much is that? Like we did our first couple of days. He says, I gave you a packet, so I wouldn't have to answer these questions, so if you could study it and then you go out there and you're like, I can afford that. I'm just going to go ahead and shoot it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's cool that they offer so many different versions too, because, like you said, we had a package. So we paid a set amount for a certain amount of animals, and then you can shoot that up to and beyond that, for additional fees. You can also just pay for the PH fee and the lodging, and just go out there and just hunt off the list, without a pre-planned package. Or maybe you just say, hey, I'll take a cull package and I've got this much money, whatever we see that is within this amount of funds, I'll take.
Do you recall how much a gemsbuck was?
Not off the top of my head, but I think
probably right around that 13 to 1500 mark.
I want to say it was around
probably
that.
Real close to a kudu. Yeah.
What are the taxidermy rates like for your kudu?
Very cheap.
Very cheap. Yeah.
That kudu shoulder mount is it's going to cost me $850.
Wow.
Yeah. All of our skulls. Now, you could get skulls done cheaper here if you know somebody, but I mean, it was $100 to get a skull done there for skull mount.
It is
what it cost me to do.
It was $100 to do flat skin.
That's with the horns taken care of.
Yep, that's everything taken care of. That's all. That's done.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I think the shoulder mount for Madeline's Impala was
about $550.
I think $550
normally,
somewhere in there.
All those other trophies, Impala, Blessed Buck, Spring Buck, all those. Right around $500, $600, right in that range.
Yeah,
less than half pricing up here.
Yeah.
Oh, probably a third to a quarter of the price that it would be up here.
Yeah. Now, once we get, you factor in the shipping because you got to get it home, right? I mean, I'm sure it'll kind of balance out a little bit, but
probably still won't be as bad as doing it up here.
No, it was really
because you're paying the shipping regardless,
and and they have the portfolio of everything they've done, and they do really quality work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cheap taxidermy. It's just cheap for us, but
right.
it's, it's quality work. It's really good looking stuff. I mean, and they had a bunch of it at the lodge, done by the same people, really good work. I mean, you look at it and you know when you can tell good taxidermy from bad taxidermy, and all of those animals looked pristine. They were all really good looking animals. All they had zebra skins on the floor and stuff like that, and it was all really
because they swap them out every couple of weeks for a fresh set.
I was wondering about that. I'm like, my goodness, that's an expensive carpet, but like really well done stuff. I mean, and so I think we did skins on just about everything. Obviously, her one Impala we did shoulder mount, but we did. So I think we've got like 4 Impala skins coming home. We've got a bunch of skulls. We got the 2 Blessed Buck, the 2.
What do they want to do the skin?
I think the skin was like, it was $80 for some of them and like $100 for the other ones. So it was like, it was crazy.
That is a third of what you pay in the States for tanning.
Right.
And that's not just tanned. That's
done.
That's done.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's not rugged. That's just
right. That's just But we're talking tanned, finished, hang on the couch.
Yep. That's ready to be a throw on the back of the couch. Ready to tack up on the wall.
Yeah, you couldn't have it tanned for that price here.
No, you couldn't. So, and especially, I mean, if you're sending it down to like Moyle and Mink or something like that, then you got to tack in the shipping to there too. And then, I mean, their prices aren't bad, all things considered, for America.
Yeah.
But
for the States, they're great.
Yeah, but comparatively to the States,
man,
the taxidermy over there was crazy cheap.
So I went over there. I shot that package. I shot 2 additional animals. I I wasn't going to talk about this, but I shot a third additional animal, but we couldn't find it. So they're still going to look for it as it gets closer to winter and the green starts dying out. So at least I'll probably get the skull. And that was for a water buck. And anyway, so I shot the package. I flew over there and I shot 3 additional animals for cheaper than I did a mule deer hunt in Wyoming.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not counting the taxidermy, not the taxidermy.
Yeah.
But 10 animals, lodging, food,
and travel,
cheaper than one Wyoming hunt.
Yeah. There's ways to do it if you want to do it. Like, and that's the opening to the eye-opening part of this whole trip, really, is just how doable it is, and it's cool because that's what we talk about all the time on this show about Alaska. Anybody can come up here and hunt Alaska. It's attainable. Like, you can do it if you have the grit, if you have the drive.
Yeah.
Africa is the same way. Like, if you are willing to put away a few $100 a month for a while and just set it to the side, and you can get one of these packages. I shot 8 animals, my wife shot 6, he shot 10, and we're all over there for, me and my wife combined
22 days.
Do what?
Combined trip time.
Oh, combined trip. Well, I was going to say for like price wise, we were barely over $10,000 for both of us to be over there shooting that many animals.
Man.
So
that includes time?
That's trip. That's airfare too.
And having to pay for the extra air. My goodness.
But, no, the extra air for the canceled flight pushed it above that. That's why I didn't get a kudu. Dang it, I gotta go again. It's like, but it is attainable. It's for a blue collar person who's willing to put some money aside. It's still for if you're not in that higher tier tax bracket, but it's doable. You're not paying, and you got to think that's combined. Her and I got 14 animals.
Yeah,
14 animals.
It's pretty good bang for your buck. No pun intended.
Full room, full board, full food, unlimited drinks. Like, everything you could want. We didn't pay a dime for gas. We got, they were out there driving us around all day, every day, looking for animals. We rented the rifles, and we did pay a rental fee for the rifles, and a price per bullet for the shots, but it's still cheaper than what a bullet costs in the U.S. Like, if I had brought my own bullets, it would have been more expensive.
But if you talked about flying maybe through Atlanta next time you would.
That is more expensive from what I understand.
But you can bring your own rifle.
But I can bring my own rifle. Yeah.
Sure, it might be a little more money to do that, but to me as a hunter who's got my own loads and everything,
that's what.
And that was honestly, so when we first started planning this trip, that was my big thing. Is, I'm going to bring my new Weatherby over there. I'm going to shoot hammer bullets. I'm going to do all this stuff. Like, it's going to be great. I'm going to get a bunch of testing done with these things. And then when I found out just how much of a risk and a headache it is to get through London and all that, it was just heartbreaking. I almost it was literal heartbreak when I found out I couldn't bring my own rifle.
Yeah.
But they have really good quality guns over there too. These guys are professionals. This is what they do for their living. All of their ammo is hand loaded. It's not factory ammo. So they have a guy that does all their loads for them, loads it to their rifle, makes sure it's very accurate. So I went over there and they had the same standards that I put on my guns and my rifles. It just wasn't mine, but it was, but it was still a very good, good setup. And I really appreciated having those. I really appreciated having a rifle that had a mod on it rather than my muzzle brake.
Yeah.
I think when I take my rifle over there by then, I'll have a suppressor on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that professional hunter that was with me, he hunts 280 days out of the year. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And they do go all over the place. They had this lodge that we were at, but they're not locked in on that lodge. That's for these packages that they have when they have clients that want these animals. And so for the package we had, they worked out a deal. Okay, we'll come rent this lodge, and so, and it was an amazing place. But like they'll go, I know he does like hippo hunts and certain, like he'll go all the way across the other side of the country. They just got done. I was watching their Instagram. They just got done with like a goose hunt.
They do bird hunts too.
Yeah, bird hunts,
Egyptian goose.
Yeah,
and that would be cool. That'd be really cool.
And that's what's so cool about it. It's like like with you guys down in Southeast, kind of mixing it up. You're doing the bird hunting and the deer hunting and the fishing and all that. It's like you can do the same thing in Africa. You go out there, you hunt 6 different species of animal, and then you go catch some sharks, and then you go shoot some birds, and you can it's like you can just mix and match it and set it up however you want it to be.
Yeah.
And it's it's been honestly life changing for me to go on a trip like
Sounds
this.
like I can go to Africa for about the price that you can go to Southeast.
right.
Yep.
But no, yeah, it was an absolutely amazing trip. I mean, as long as we've been talking about it today, I mean, it still just doesn't do it justice. You know, I mean, just the experience was amazing.
Yeah.
That last day over there, though, bro.
And of course, we spent the morning doing what?
Yeah,
looking for the one that I couldn't find.
So yeah, we woke up that morning at 4 a.m, rolled out to this other property, and we spent the whole morning out there tracking and looking for this thing. And my goodness, when I say spider webs, bro, like we kind of split up at the beginning. You know, we figured out where it was that you'd shot it. Said, all right, spread out, you know, and we'll just look for it. And I kind of picked a game trail and I started walking one direction. And I had my fun fact: Onyx works all over the globe. So I had my Onyx tracker on. So I marked where the truck was, and I was just like, all right, I'm off. Like, and I had the 270 with me. Ricky had let me carry the rifle. And so he apologized later. He's like, sorry to make you carry that around all day. I was like, bro, I'm American. I love having a gun on me. Like,
Right.
What are you talking about? But I was out there going down this game trail, and I came to this point where I realized that an animal the size of a water buck could not have gone down here, because every path leading forward was just endless mazes of spiders' webs. I mean, every single path was just from 1 foot above the ground to 8 feet above the ground was just spider webs. And so I pulled my knife out and cut me a little branch off of a tree. And I started using that as my little spinner stick, and I just
make a little lightsaber.
Yeah, everywhere I was walking, I just had this stick waving up and down in front of me, because I mean, in the early morning, you could see them because there was dew on them, and it was a little bit the way the sun was angled and everything. But as soon as the sun got higher in the sky, I mean, you'd walk into these things before you'd see them, and the spiders were, I mean, silver dollar sized. You know, so it's not something you really want just getting onto your neck or anything. So
yeah, I think they called them like a golden something.
Something, yeah.
Golden orb weaver?
Maybe.
That just comes to mind with
the funny thing is, I never got a single bug bite the whole time I was over there.
Nope.
Like, no ticks, no spider bites, no nothing.
My skin was too hot from being sunburned.
Right. It was just crispy.
Spiders were like, ooh, that's spicy.
Yeah, this one's burnt.
Overcooked.
Oh, well done. I don't like that. But no, so yeah, we spent all morning out there, and it was hot that day. I
think it got to 129 degrees that day.
Yeah, they put the Ricky's watch out in the sun for like just 2 minutes, and it got, I think it was 54 degrees Celsius on his watch.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was hot. And the worst part was that morning, no wind. It was perfectly still. So it was that hot, and it was just kind of
stale,
stagnant,
So
stale.
if you're like me, you're just like every pore in your body is releasing.
Oh, yeah, I was soaked.
That's when I taught him a new word. I'm gonna just say swamp butt.
Oh,
and they're like,
right.
"What is that?" You know.
Right.
And I was like, "Well, you see all that sweat running down your back." And
Yeah. No, it was a wet, nasty, just hot day.
Yeah.
And so we looked out. I mean, I think we were out there till around pushing lunchtime. I mean, it was probably 1 p.m. by the time we got back to the lodge. And it was about an hour away, so that was including the hour drive back. But you know, we found some sign. You know, he definitely hit it. You know, but those things, they're just tough animals. You know,
those water bucks have a reputation for being very, very tough.
Yeah, and the environment was so thick. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't see 5 yards in front of you. You know, and so and there was just there was game trails everywhere. You know, there was high. You could go up high, you could go down low, you could parallel the hill, you could do it. You know, and so all of us were spread out. There was probably 6 or 7 of us, and it was, you know, us and the trackers and the PHs, and we're all just looking. And we'd find we'd find some blood, and we'd find some you know, some wet marks or something like that, and we'd find an area where, you know, the trackers would kind of figure out, okay, it bedded down here for a little bit, and then it got up, and we weren't sure if maybe we pushed it or spooked it or something. But at some point, we just had to kind of call it, and that's when he said he'll find it later in the year. And he says he hunts in there quite a bit. So, but that was a sad morning. Yeah, I feel for you, buddy.
Yeah. And when we were leaving the morning they were taking us to the airport, a water buck jumped the fence and was standing in the road looking at us.
Yeah.
Just like,
oh man.
So can you shoot on or across the drivable surface there?
You're not supposed to, no.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there was a morning where there were some animals on the road, and we were told no.
Oh,
no,
okay,
you're not allowed to.
And
it was a back road, you know. I mean,
that's what
it wasn't like the trails we were on way back,
right.
You know. But it was a passable dirt road, you know, kind of a farm road, and we were just told no.
You can't shoot them on the road.
It's too risky, you know. And I don't think that's like you're not going to get a ticket for it or anything like that, you know, because it's all privately managed. It's not like you have a state fishing game that's going to come down on
right,
it.
But good safety.
It's good safety, yeah. You know, there's other people on those roads. I mean, there's multiple workers, ranch hands, cowboys, things like that are going back and forth, and so you just don't want to risk it. You know, you get a ricochet going down the road, and all of a sudden, you know, there might be somebody down there you didn't realize was coming or something. So
yeah.
But no, and then the last evening after we got back and we hung out in the lodge, that's when I went out. We went out for the last evening. I had one more cull that I could shoot, and then Sean came out with us, and that's when I think I posted those pictures of those hogs that we got that night, the warthogs.
Yeah.
Massive, man. I mean, I got a nice one that night, and then he got that big one.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sean shot a giant.
Yeah, I think, did I post the picture of him laying next to it?
Yeah.
Is that one in there? Dude, it was just insane.
Things bigger than Sean.
Yeah. and you know, warthogs, I'll say that, you know how bears have ground shrinkage, and so you'll see a bear come into the bait or you're walking around, and then
pigs don't
you plug it and you walk up to it and you're like, oh really, that's it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh man, like I shot a baby. Like, but pigs are the opposite.
Yeah.
So you see him walking around and you're like, oh, okay, that's probably a pretty good pig. You shoot it and then you walk up to it and you're like, oh mama, that's a big one. You know? Like, I mean, like, and that's that one that Sean shot. I mean, it was 60 yards away, maybe, you know, and it was behind a bush, and we were sneaking up to where we knew it was. You know, we spotted it from the same place I had spotted my trophy impala several days before. And we were working into it, and all of a sudden, Bungani, our tracker, was like, hey, right there, you know, and he just, that big old hog just came walking out from behind that bush. And I mean, Sean did an amazing job getting a nice shot on it. And real quick too, you know, because I mean, when they look at you, those pigs are not, they don't hang out. You know, if they see you and they perceive you as a threat, they're gone. And then they disappear into those.
Yeah, and that back tail goes straight up and down.
Yeah.
And they'll get in those bushes, and
then
they're just gone. You know, and so he did a really good job getting a good shot on that one. And it was kind of similar to the one I got. You know, we were in there, we had seen it. We had been waiting for it to come out because we'd seen it a couple days before in the same area, and pigs are real regional. You know, they like to hang out in the same areas.
Yeah.
So we went back there, didn't see it, and then as we're driving down past the area, it was standing 15 yards off the road. And so we kept going further away, snuck back in, and then we ended up getting that one too. But it was the same concept. It was like 20 yards out, and you had 3 seconds to make the shot. You know? And that was the fun part about pigs is it's really kind of a almost snap shooting experience unless you can get them from far away. But when you get into the brush and the thick, man, it's you got to be quick. Yeah, you know, and I wasn't quick enough on a couple occasions, and they're just immediately out of there. Like it was pretty neat. But yeah, so that's how we ended the trip, was with 2 real nice hogs. I think you guys got a hog that night as well, didn't you?
Yeah. And we missed Steve's zebra. So the day before.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
The day before. And they're really hard to you got to be quiet and sneak up on them. And we had to stay back because, you know, usually we're hunting as a big old group going down.
Yeah.
And we went down. I didn't get to see the shot because we had to stay back. And he didn't think he killed it, you know, but the tracker knew. I guess they do some reaction where they shake their head a lot and spin and take, and then we ended up finding it. I don't know, probably 100 yards and some thick stuff, of course, too, and everything's poking you. And I don't know how they got the truck down there. I'm glad it wasn't my truck. But yeah,
some Toyotas, man.
It's a Toyota. It'll be fine.
You know, loaded it up in the truck and brought it back. But yeah, even that, you know, I want to say it's like $900 to shoot a zebra.
Yeah,
and
that sounds about right.
I don't know what the skin. I can't remember the skin, but
the flat skin on that wasn't even that expensive, to be honest. I don't think. I mean, I've got the sheet at home. I can look it up. But yeah, I mean, a few $100, maybe 4 or 5. But really reasonable rates over there. Yeah, that was cool though, because he was. I remember he was so conflicted over there. Steven was, because he I really want to shoot these big animals, but I have to have kind of a reason to shoot them, and he, going through it logically like a meat hunter does, and like a guy that has, good respect for the animals. And, he's like, I want the trophy, but I want to make sure it's a trophy I can actually, enjoy and view and stuff like that. And so he was really taking into consideration, like, what can he put in his house and where would he put it? He didn't just want to shoot anything off the list. And and it was really cool to see, he kind of landed on, okay, zebras were what I want to get. And then they just went out. And it was a really good looking zebra too. Yeah. It was real nice.
Zebra cool. Cost.
It was 900.
900, yeah.
Yeah. Shoot 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
But, and all in all, I mean, and that's really great. It was such a great trip. And so, you're not out there breaking the bank. You're not out there, killing yourself I mean, the heat almost killed us a couple times, but, like, really enjoyable hunts. And that was just what I came away with. It was just such an amazing time over there.
Yeah.
And it was like, I will definitely be going again.
Yeah, and if anybody's skeptical about, they don't go over and kill stuff that doesn't get eaten, there's not a single thing over there that goes to waste. That's even the innards.
Yeah, good point.
The people over there will take those to everything.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, when they get them back, and like I said, they bring the whole animal back. They don't gut them in the field or anything. So you shoot your animal, they get it in the back of the truck, and they either get it somewhere where it's not going to spoil, in the shade, or they'll take it immediately back. And when they hang it up in that skinning shack, you'll see them. They start skinning it out, and they get it opened up, and they'll get the paunch out and all the guts and everything, and then they'll literally be spraying them down with the hose and separating out, all of the edible organs, anything you can use. It's zero waste. And it was really awesome to see, because that makes you feel better as a hunter. You're not just over there, just killing it to kill it, to bring a skin back.
People.
You're feeding people. You're providing, sustenance for people. That's a big thing for, like, me and my wife. We're primarily meat hunters. We're out there to fill the freezer, either our freezer or other people's freezers. And, oftentimes, trying to help as many people as we can with what we get. And, so to kind of include that aspect in it, it's like, yes, you get the experience of going somewhere exotic and shooting an animal you've never even seen before. And, like, you get these cool pictures and these cool memories and experiences and these trophies to bring home. But, like, that's not where it ended.
Yeah.
You weren't out there just shooting an animal, cutting the head off and leaving, and leaving the rest of it in the field. Like, it's all getting used. And it's really well managed. They're wild animals, and, like, all of these things you see in the comment sections on social media and stuff like that, all these people complaining about Africa hunting, go do it. Like, look into what it actually is, because it's so different than what the perception of some guy sitting in New York City thinks it is. I mean, even when it comes down to, and again, different countries have different rules and different ethics and whatnot, but, like, there's a lot of places you can't hunt some of those, the big 5, like the elephants and whatnot. And because, well, we don't have enough to justify being able to hunt them. But in other areas, it's like, okay, well, if we don't hunt them, like I was saying earlier, it's going to become a problem for the farmers and the locals and everybody like that, because there's so many of them. They're a nuisance. So we need to bring people in to thin the herd out a little bit and make some money that gets put into the economy. And, it's a huge industry over there.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw, we were early, we were the first group for the year, but I mean, talking to people, hunting is a huge industry over there. And, it's one of the few industries where they're making American money over there.
Yeah.
You got to think, I mean, we were talking about how $50 was 1,000 rand. I mean, we go over there and, the trip, not included, it was like, what was it, like 3,500 a head for the package deal, not including any of the extra animals. But, let's say you had a zebra, $900 for a zebra, $900 US, that's a lot of rand.
Yeah.
That's good money in that economy, you know? And so it's like, you're really helping to kind of put into that area. And then, with the food and everything like that you're providing, it's, It's a really cool experience.
You know, I recommend for any. It's getting to the point where I recommend a book in every episode here. The White Hunters.
Yes, that one I'll stand with you on.
The book is really good, and it starts with the early days of hunting in Africa, and the whole idea of the white hunter going over there to become a what would we call a PH today, right?
Right.
And all the way through kind of the end of that era, and in talking about the end of that era, it talks about how the game preserves and reason that there's so many species over there that they're considered endangered and stuff like that is not as a result of hunting; it's a result of the lack of hunting. And the fact that there is no reason for those animals to exist monetarily for any of those countries if there aren't hunters. Because as soon as the hunting gets shut down, the poachers step in, they kill everything. The poachers and the farmers step in, they either kill it, sell the tusks or the horns. And they kill it to eat. And to keep from destroying their crops. And actually a lot of the governments over there are corrupt enough that they'll shut down the hunting so they can make a quick buck off the poachers, because they will actually move the product through the government warehouses basically so they can make the money off of it. And I believe it was Savage Son. No, maybe not. I think it was the second book in the Terminalist series by Jack Carr, whatever the name of it was. He actually talks about some of the poaching and stuff that goes on over there. And there's actually active anti-poaching outfits.
Oh yeah, we saw several of them.
And anti-poaching there is actually, you have a good chance of ending up in a firefight with those poachers. Very, very good chance.
But the money from hunting goes to fund the anti-poaching units.
No, we saw that a bunch. I mean, all around Addo, the elephant preserve, because that's a non-hunting preserve for the elephants and the zebras and the lions and whatnot. And then there was another one next to it. Shamwari was the name of it. And it was more of a private preserve. It wasn't a public one. But you could still stay there. You just had to like pay the lodge fee and stuff like that. But the same thing, they had elephants and rhinos and all kinds of other animals there. And whenever we were around those areas, you would see plenty of trucks, anti-poaching unit, and they're patrolling, they're looking around, they're looking at you.
Those
they're
guys
looking
will
at
run
what
drones
you're doing.
and
we even pulled over
stuff
at one point to take some pictures, and there was a anti-poaching vehicle that was kind of watching us, seeing if we were scoping stuff out and whatnot. And it was good to see, that they're actually putting an effort for it, and there's a real dedication to that. Because that is the balance over there. It's a totally different management system than we have here in the U.S., but it works for what they do. And even when you have these people in the States that throw a conniption fit about Cecil the Lion or whatever,
Cecil the Lion is the single greatest propaganda.
He was
scandal.
Selected by the local management group to be taken out because of his age.
Right.
Like that was it wasn't random. It wasn't poaching. It wasn't anything. It was he was selected.
He was not in the refuge.
Yeah. And that was a perfectly legal, ethical hunt.
That was a stupid deal.
But the propaganda and the bad publicity that it got, it actually negatively affected the economies in other countries because of it, And so it's like you might think you're standing up for something good, but you're actually really hurting something.
Not only are you
hurting people's lives,
the animal population, which you do when any anti-hunting that happens in Africa that affects Africa politically. Because even if no laws actually change, when there's a huge political thing like Cecil the Lion, the amount of hunters that go over there slows way down.
Suddenly,
just because
they don't want the bad PR.
Exactly, because so many of these guys are big names in America, CEOs and people that have money and run businesses who bring a tremendous amount of money into those economies and allow those people to actually live halfway decent lives. As compared to they have to go back to living off the land almost literally sometimes, or scraping by with almost nothing because no longer do they have jobs. They go back to being poachers. Because that's the only way they can survive.
And it's sad to see, and it's again kind of a reason we see articles and stuff like that even about things in the U.S. in the lower 48. But if it's not our environment and we don't really know that much about it, guess what? I don't really have a comment on it because it's not my business to comment on it. I don't know enough to comment on it. And that's just one thing that's always kind of bugged me is you look at social media and it's just so many people just have no idea what they're talking about, but they get so upset about it.
Social media has taken away the ability of the defender to defend against him or herself with a punch to the face of the attacker.
Right. Exactly. Keyboard warriors.
Back in the day, if you were talking to somebody and you had bad things to say and you ran your mouth like you did on social media today, that didn't end very well.
No, it did not.
No.
Right.
But now you can just anonymously comment and just say nonsensical things and make something go viral. And then a news media outlet picks it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bigger news media outlet picks it up. And then all of a sudden it's on national television. Yeah. Cecil the lion was murdered in a wildlife refuge park on Tuesday by a prominent United States doctor.
Right.
It's just how do you get that out of and I've heard the factual stories of that whole situation with Cecil the lion.
Yeah.
It is laughably different than what the American media put out to the public.
Yep.
But that's what people think. When they think of Cecil the lion, they think, oh, a poor Simba that got shot in a national wildlife refuge because some doctor wanted his hide.
Well, and then, and that's the narrative you hear, but in reality, guys like Marshall and I go over there to hunt, and we can't even shoot a warthog during cull season without watching it for 30 minutes to make sure it doesn't have piglets or anything like that. Even something as simple as a warthog, they spend so much time and so much effort to make sure, okay, this is a good one to take out that's not going to affect the population. It's not a mother. It's not, anything that could become, a breeder in the future that we would want to keep around. It's not, even something as simple as a warthog gets that much attention.
Yep.
And you don't think they're paying that much attention to lions?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like, come on. Like, really? Like, I mean, these guys, this is their livelihood. This is their home.
Age
they want
requirements
it to be good
for lions.
Yeah.
PHs have to be trained to age lions.
Yeah.
Imagine that's not an easy job.
Same thing. I was talking to Ricky about the process and the testing and stuff like that they have to go through to become PHs.
Oh,
and it's like you have to, like, there's a point in the training process where they'll take you out in the field and you have to identify animals within a certain given time. You have to be able to visually ID it correctly, within a certain given amount of time. And you can't, and it's not a long time either, but you've got to be, even in Polo, you got to be able to put your binoculars up and say, okay, that's a good one. And they'll say, yes, you're correct. That's an older, mature Impala, but you can't just, so these guys, they're not, just some yahoo off the street that decided they wanted to go be a professional hunter. These guys are trained.
Yeah.
They're very professional at what they do. They're very good at gauging animals and managing the land and making sure, and all the landowners have their own rules too, and so there might be certain pockets where, maybe the landowners don't do as good of a job, but overall, from what I saw firsthand, phenomenal management of the land and the game populations. It really is really top notch over there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, that was, it's hard to compress everything we did over there down into, whatever it is.
3.5 hours.
3.5 hour episode, but
full Joe Rogan style this week.
Yeah. We need to stop telling people 2 hours. That's going to be, we're getting a reputation over here.
Well, we haven't been saying it, but the last couple were a little bit shorter. So now
there you go.
Enjoy. This one might take you 2 days.
But another thing, if you are going over there, prepare for long travel. It took us almost 3 days to get home. We left on the 30th of January and we got home the 1st of February. So it was, and we didn't leave late on the 30th either. So we were traveling the whole day of the 30th, 31st. We got back on the 1st. And it was a long trip, and a lot of it was layovers, like I said, that's kind of the other reason I'm thinking about going through Atlanta is just to curb the layovers.
Yep.
But be prepared for that, be prepared for long trips, but well worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Yeah. So what about you, Marshall?
I would too. Actually, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Steve's already booked.
I know. I saw that. He's already got his next trip booked. It's a little unfair though, because he's got a shorter flight than we do.
He does. Half the time.
Yeah. He's a hop, skip, and a jump away. I mean,
yeah.
But I just wanted to give a shout out. Winterberg Safaris, did a great job. Defin and Ricky, amazing PHs. If you get a chance to hunt with them, highly recommend. Very, very good experience over there. You know, and we'll be planning another trip. And if you are interested, feel free to write into the show and say that you're interested. We can maybe coordinate you with the guy that sets these trips up and see if you'd be able to jump on the plane. He said to put that out there. So,
cool.
feel free to maybe come over to Africa and hunt with, myself and Marshall again, and maybe you guys will jump on it. Who knows? So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Australia is calling me as well. So.
Oh
yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would love to go there.
I think Australia is probably first on my list.
Really? Yeah. I would love to go see Australia.
Yeah.
And that's honestly not just Africa, but just the whole process of traveling and going somewhere else. It's really opened my eyes.
Just
to the fact
traveling.
Sean has those
internationally.
connections too.
Yeah,
he
I
does.
know.
But just traveling internationally, like I so wanted to hunt. There's nothing to hunt over there. It's all dead because people are hungry. But
yeah,
I did see a few. I saw some. I saw a roe deer. I saw some roe deer in some of the field and some of the driving we did.
Yeah,
and that was just really cool. But just traveling internationally is an experience that I think every American should have, because no matter where you go, it's different than here.
It puts
and
things
when
into
you come
perspective.
Back,
yeah,
you really appreciate America,
right?
And just the thing, the things that I know for me, like I'm used to trucks and guns, right?
Right.
Just especially in Fairbanks, Alaska, half the trucks on the road, half the vehicles on the road, just about are pickup trucks.
That's true.
And half of those at least probably have a gun in them, right?
Right.
Just one.
Well,
come on now.
I remember
those are rookie numbers.
At one
You
point
got to
in my
pump those
life,
numbers up.
I'm more responsible now, but at one point in my life, I would like clean out my truck and be like, "Oh, here's that gun under the seat or something." Like,
right.
I knew I had one of these.
Yeah,
but it's just a completely different. Like now you're talking about traveling there. And I'm like, I can say a lot of things that a lot of people in Fairbanks. I can say, hey, I've been to Europe, right? I've been to Hungary. I've been to Ukraine. But man, I'd love to say I went to Africa and just a few days, right? That's all it takes to get an idea of like how much different life is for so many people.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is, you come away from it with so much new perspective and like new friends. That's the big thing. Like Ricky's a great dude. We'd still text and whatnot. It wasn't like just one and done. All right, get out of here. On to the next guy. It was like you spend a week with somebody, you kind of get to know him a little bit. And Steve, from over there, he listens to the show, so shout out to you, buddy. He's a great guy, great guy to know. Super hilarious, and the guy can tell a story like none other. So maybe if he ever makes it over to Alaska, we'll have him on. But
yeah, I think if you probably need to add 2 more hours to the show.
Oh, absolutely.
5
I wouldn't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, great to meet everybody. It was an amazing trip. And that was actually the first time I actually met you. Well, not the first time I'd met you, but the first time we really got to hang out.
Yep.
You and me, Marshall, and so, great to get to know people and kind of bond through an experience like that. It's really, really, really a good thing. Highly recommend it for anybody. So, you got anything else you want to add?
No, shout out to Deffin. No,
absolutely.
I still keep in touch with him. He's been asking me how my foot's doing, and
really?
It's not just okay. I got your money. You're out of here. No,
right. Yeah, exactly.
They're really nice people.
Yeah. Deffin and his brother Edwin too. Want to give him a shout out. I mean, that guy is probably the nicest human being I've ever met in my life. I mean, the guy was like, he came over and bandaged your foot up the one time, and like, he was just absolutely just full. I mean, you don't get much better customer service than what he was able. And the whole time we're driving, he's tour guide galore. He knows every all the different wildlife and everything. It was really cool. Just absolutely an amazing experience.
Yep.
So shout out to everybody over there, and
Well,
highly recommend.
Thanks for coming on the show this week, Marshall.
Thanks for having
It
me.
was good to have you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We'll have to have you on and talk about more Alaska stuff some other time.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Got lots of horrible stories.
We like those ones.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, well, folks, thank you very much for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening to it on. Give us a rating and a review. Written reviews go a long way in getting this show in front of more people. We're going to keep doing more hunting and more storytelling. So, be sure to tune in for future episodes. If you'd like to comment on anything you heard today, go ahead and head to the website, thenorthernhunter.com, hit that contact button. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us. It sends an email right to our inbox where we'll be able to respond. And, if you ask us a good enough question, maybe we'll put it in the show here in the future. So while you're there, we've got our sponsors in the partnership page. If you buy any products from them, we've got discount codes as they have chosen to support what we're doing. So if you buy anything from them, it's all hunting related. You'll get yourself a discount, helps them out and helps us out. some are big companies and some are small and still growing. So definitely check them out. It's all high quality stuff. We also got some merch in the shop. So if you want some hats, hoodies, t-shirts, we've seen some purchases come through recently for all over the country. I'll just say that, really cool to see people in the lower 48 ordering stuff, because you don't really think about it. We're kind of an Alaskan show, but we got listeners all over the globe. Honestly, we've got a lot of listeners across the ocean too. So it's just really cool that something like this can reach out that far. So we really appreciate seeing all of that, all the questions, and any merch you guys purchase. So, but Marshall, thanks again for cutting out almost 4 hours of your weekend for us. And,
no problem. Have a good.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do some more hunting in the future. So everybody, thank you for listening. And until next week, get out there, get after it. Good luck. We'll see you there.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to StealthyHunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.